Hey everyone, it's Scott Hansen from NFL Red Zone reminding you to watch Sports Ballers, the podcast that gets you caught up on everything Washington sports and beyond.
Welcome in to another episode of the Sports Ballers podcast. It is Wednesday, November 9th. This is episode 217. I am Corey Puffett hosting for tonight, and I am joined, as always, by Eric Meyer and Evan Ash. How are you guys doing this evening?
Doing well. How about yourself?
I'm hanging in there. I'm a little tired, but trying to keep myself pepped up for the podcast tonight.
Yeah, I'm doing good. I obviously things are happening in the world that are somewhat relevant, but
a lot of things are happening in the world, yes.
A lot of sports and other things, so, it's been an interesting last couple of days.
Well, we'll start tonight with the sports. If we feel like talking about some of the other things, we can later, but this is a sports podcast, so we'll kick it off there. Of course, as any listener of this show knows, we'll tend to get into some current event stuff as it relates to the sports topics anyway. And on that note, let's start with Kyrie Irving being suspended by the Brooklyn Nets.
I mean, I guess you want me to talk about this?
Yeah, you can start it at least.
Okay. Well,
we talked about some of the lead up to this last week on the show.
It was just such a cluster F of things that have happened since we talked about the stupid documentary movie, whatever that he shared.
Yep.
And his sparring with Nick Friedel and just being typical arrogant Kyrie Irving. But then he, I guess, presented himself or was presented by the Nets to the media to discuss certain things. And he would not outright say, I'm not an anti-Semite or something along those lines. He was saying some other mishmash of words like, I can't be anti-Semitic if I know where I'm from, which seems to be reinforcing some of the tropes from this documentary, which ain't exactly helping your case to claim you're not anti-Semitic.
Some of the exact things that, like, Ye was saying that ultimately got him more or less severed from Adidas. Granted, Adidas is still selling his design just without his name on it.
Well, yeah, and he doesn't get paid for it, so, because they're not, whatever. Anyway, that doesn't matter. But so Kyrie did not give, I guess, what, I don't really know if it was the Nets. Adam Silver came down immediately and said that wasn't cutting it, and everybody that watched it was like, yeah, that's not cutting it, Kyrie. And so the Nets suspended him for no fewer than 5 games. Let's be clear, this is not just strictly a 5-game suspension. This could
continue on indefinitely.
And so Kyrie basically it's almost like he's on a rehab assignment.
Yeah.
But for his dumb head instead of like an actual injury, but maybe it is an injury, who knows. But this is where I we kind of delved into the ridiculousness of this. The things they're demanding of Kyrie Irving are kind of silly as far as I'm concerned. Not that they're demanding it, not that he doesn't need to show that level of understanding from what he's done, but the fact that anybody that you would treat this way, you clearly have some level of contempt for. And there's no realistic way Kyrie Irving, who is as arrogant as they come, is ever going to... This is effectively a bow-down moment here. This is Joe Tsai and the Nets saying, we are going to humble you in this situation or you are not going to play for us anymore.
And does anybody really think that Kyrie Irving is going to do all these things that they're demanding him to do before they'll lift the suspension?
He's not going to do anything.
Yeah, if he does or he doesn't, the idea that he has to meet with the owner and have a conversation. What did we learn today, Kyrie?
Right.
Like he's in 3rd grade and he pushed a kid down on the playground or something like that. That's not going to fly because Kyrie, I'm not going to say to his credit because he doesn't deserve any credit for anything, but he absolutely is about preserving his own dignity. Much to a fault because he doesn't preserve his own dignity with his own actions, but he expects everybody else to do so. So to be forced to do something that would be humbling and, in my opinion, a little humiliating is definitely not in his bag. It's not something he's willing to do. And even if he is, what kind of relationship do you have with a player at that point that you had to go through all of this just to be comfortable putting him back on the floor?
Yeah, those are kind of the layers to this, because if this was within Kyrie's wheelhouse, his personality to do all of this, he would have given a more genuine, authentic, like he would have actually given an apology when they made him available to the media. He didn't do that. So at this point, the fact that they're even demanding all of this suggests that they don't believe that, it almost suggests that they don't believe he's capable of doing all of it, in which case a couple of things. One, if he does do all of it, you're basically making the assumption already that it's not going to be sincere, in which case that shouldn't be enough to lift the suspension. And if he doesn't do it, as you kind of expect him not to do, why are you even keeping a connection with him? Why are you even keeping him on the team?
It seems like, and this ties into the second point about the Nets, because I think this is the only thing I wrote down about the NBA.
Oh no, there's one other thing.
Okay, maybe somebody else put that there.
Oh,
or
maybe Evan put Udoka in there.
I put you. That's what I'm talking about.
Oh, you're jumping.
I'm tying that into this.
Yeah.
The fact that the Nets have seemingly moved on from going after Ime Udoka as their next head coach suggests to me that, not that they've found their morals and realized that would be kind of ridiculous and certainly alienating to any women that work for the Brooklyn Nets to hire somebody who got in trouble for that 6 weeks ago and effectively lost his plum job with the Boston Celtics. No, the reason they're not hiring him is because they realize he wouldn't be able to come in and save them. The Nets fully understand their relationship with Kyrie is fractured. This is somewhat speculation by me, but I think it's within the realm of reason and an educated guess based off of what we've seen. This feels like they're like, okay, Kyrie's on the shelf for 5 games minimum. We're asking him to do all this stuff that he's not capable or willing to do generally. And even if he does, it'll be humiliating and will likely strain the relationship further with our quote-unquote star player. So, and by the way, the Nets stink, right? Like, they're not winning very many games. The roster's no good. There's no salvaging this. Kyrie's on his option year deal. He's gone after this season. Kevin Durant is probably just as unhappy today as he was when he demanded a trade back in July. So it's time to blow it up. Why the hell would you go add more gasoline to the fire by bringing in Ime Udoka, who, to his credit, is a good coach, has a track record, but also is quite controversial because of his previous behavior? There's no reason to bring him in if there's no way that he could actually turn this team into a contender, which he can't. He just can't do it. And especially with the fact that they're probably looking at Kyrie and saying, we honestly don't know if this man's going to play for us again. At which point, they should just get rid of him. Like, why are you holding on to this? Because the thing is, even if they somehow get past this and are able to move on and Kyrie is able to make amends with whoever he needs to make amends with, there's always going to be something new with Kyrie Irving. Yeah. It's always going to be the next thing.
Yep.
If it's not the vaccines, it's this. Or I need to take a sabbatical because something happened in the world that everybody else is upset about, but they managed to still show up to work. Kyrie is going to cause problems. This is what he has made his brand. It's gotten worse and worse every step of the way. If he sees anything on the internet, like a YouTube video saying the earth is flat, he's like, oh, that's interesting, I'm going to share that. Like, it's just what he does at this point. He is, I'm going to quote Howard Bryant, he's a contrarian without a cause. Yeah. Like, that is what he is, and that's what he's making himself out to be. He has not shown any desire to focus 100% on basketball. Like, to make that his main focus. Like, Kevin Durant can be surly. He can act a fool on Twitter. He can get prickly with the media. He's, not the nicest guy in the world at this point in his career. But damn it, that man is dedicated to his craft playing basketball. Kyrie is not there. And like I said, there's no point in continuing this relationship with this player if this is how it's going to go down. I mean, like I said, we talked about last week, they can't trade him because he's too toxic. Anybody else that's trading for him would be like, damn, do we really want to take this on? And does Kyrie make us good enough to actually make it worth it? The answer for pretty much any team in the league is no. So here we are.
So why is Kyrie still in the league at all?
It's like in this particular situation, like Eric and I both kind of said, like this seems like it should lead to a logical conclusion of Kyrie Irving being cut by the Nets, but that's not happening. And it almost makes you wonder, like, is this a situation where the Nets feel like they have to take it upon themselves to punish Kyrie Irving for this? Which, do I think that Kyrie Irving deserves whatever comes to him for these sorts of antics? Yeah, but he's also a grown man. And I don't really believe in professional sports teams, like, punishing a player in that way. Like, the court of public opinion should be the one, like, kind of handing down any sort of a quote-unquote punishment to a celebrity.
Like, this almost feels like this kind of ties to what we saw in the offseason. Joe Tsai is not willing to be walked over by these players. Kevin Durant demanded a trade. He said, we are absolutely not trading Kevin Durant for anything but a premium package, and they were unable to get a deal done. He's done the same thing with Kyrie, where Kyrie wanted an extension. He wanted a max contract extension. He looked at him and said, hell no, you haven't earned that because you haven't been available at work, and it's cost us opportunities to win titles here. I mean, it cost them James Harden. Let's keep it real. That's what happened. And
they got Ben Simmons.
And they got Ben Simmons instead, which is that's a whole other thing. But Kyrie at this point, you're trying to break him. Like, you're trying to win a battle to make yourself feel better. And to me, that's a dangerous game to play because players don't like being treated that way. Because like you said, Corey, despite what you think about Kyrie Irving and his intellect or lack thereof, he's a grown-ass man. He's a professional basketball player. He's been in the league for over 10 years. He's got seniority and respect among the NBA players. They're going to look at that situation and be like, why the hell would I want to go play for that guy if he treats his players that way?
Yeah, if you feel like you need to punish Kyrie Irving, the way to do that as a team is to cut him. Plain and simple. That's it. If you're the league and you feel like he has a bad image for your league, you can absolutely say, yeah, you're not allowed to play in our league. You can effectively cut him from all 30 teams. But when you are one team, that should be the limit to your method of punishing a player. Like we talk about this sometimes, not necessarily in this exact context, but you look back at what happened with Kareem Hunt when he was with the Cleveland Browns, right? The Cleveland Browns did exactly what they were supposed to do. They probably did a little bit later than...
You mean the Chiefs?
I'm sorry, yes, thank you, because he's with the Browns now, with the Chiefs. The Chiefs cut him. That's what they should have done. And we can sit here and say the NFL should have suspended him for a longer time or maybe prevented him from ever playing again if we feel that what he did was bad enough to warrant that. But I don't believe that it would have been right for the Chiefs to suspend him in perpetuity as a member of the team. Like, that's not really your place. If you're going to do that, just cut him.
Right. This feels like it's personal. Like that's really the bottom line. Is this feels like Joe Tsai has taken this, not just Kyrie Irving and his anti-Semitism. He's taken this whole player empowerment thing with Kyrie. Like, Kyrie's a clown. He said it even last year that, we're going to talk and words like management and us are going to work things out. I'm like, no, management and us? No, you are a player. You do not.
You are not management.
You are not management. You are not the guy in charge of building the roster. And no, you are also not the coach. And there's also been stories about Kyrie refusing to run Steve Nash's sets. And he just winged it for like 10 straight possessions, which obviously isn't going to fly. Like, Kyrie has certainly earned the scorn of people. But at the same time, you've got to, if you're going to have a business-minded focus on everything you do, it's got to continue through here, too. Mm-hmm. It can't become personal when you want to punish a player. And that's what it has with the Nets, and it's going to make them look bad. Now, do they really care? Who knows? Because the Nets are hosed.
They already look bad.
They've got no future, right? Like, they trade Kevin Durant. Maybe they get some draft capital back for him. But they gave up pretty much a whole bunch of picks to trade for James Harden, and that situation blew up. So the Rockets have their picks forever. And, oh, by the way, the Nets stink, which makes it all the more hilarious because now the Rockets are getting good picks. It's like the fact that the Lakers might actually end up giving Wembanyama to the Pelicans because the Pelicans have their first-round pick unprotected, and it's probably going to be in the lottery.
Okay.
Yep. So we'll move on off the NBA, and let's talk a little bit of baseball. In what was, I believe, the second lowest rated World Series in at least the last 25 years as far as TV ratings, the Houston Astros won the 2022 World Series. And I contributed to those low ratings because I did not watch a single out of the entire World Series this year.
I watched a good bit of it, and I was entertained. I wish each game didn't take 4 hours, but love baseball, and like as far as my TV watching priority, I mean, football is going to be first, but like when game 1 was on a Friday night, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to watch this. Am I supposed to watch what's even on TV on Friday night?
It's hell if I know.
ESPN usually has some basketball on.
Oh,
Let's
see.
Regular season NBA on a Friday night,
Oh, okay.
And you don't even get inside the NBA at the end of it because that's on TNT on Thursdays. So
Oh, okay. Yes, yeah. There's nothing on TV, so let me watch some baseball. Game went to extras. The Astros imploded, or in game 1 anyway. And then I sort of checked in throughout the other 5 games. I missed the no-hitter. How did that happen? That's one thing since our last show. I think that was last Wednesday night. The Astros threw a no-hitter in Philadelphia.
Yeah, I believe it was like the third no-hitter in World Series history, but the first combined no-hitter ever in the World Series.
It's the third no-hitter in postseason history.
Oh, postseason history.
In the first combined. Yeah.
Okay.
Because, I mean, there was Don Larson and then
Roy Halladay.
Roy Halladay.
Yep.
I watched the Roy Halladay one. Yeah, that was great.
I remember coming back to my dorm. I was studying at the library, and then my roommate was a Philly fan, and it was like a no-hitter. I'm like, what? That was crazy. The funniest thing to me was not only was the last 2 postseason no-hitters in the same stadium, but Dusty Baker was the visiting team manager for both of them.
That is kind of funny.
Not
funny if you're Dusty Baker, but he got the last laugh.
He was happy with this one.
Yeah.
He was happy with the second one.
Yeah.
Yeah. The first one he was probably disappointed when he was managing the Reds, but we talked about it last week. I couched it appropriately. I was like, that game 1 loss that they had where they blew it. They left Verlander in there, and Verlander, again, as I said last week, the worst high-profile pitcher in the history of the World Series. And that probably still is the case, even though he got off the schneid and got a win, although the Astros were trying really hard not to let him have it. But I was like, okay, this is ugly because now you're down 2-1 and Philly's brutal. But then they come out and they throw this combined no-hitter, which I don't care about combined no-hitters. Like,
I don't particularly either.
Like, I'm not one of these jackasses that get on there and say it's not really a no-hitter. It's like, no hits were recorded by one team. It's a no-hitter. It's just not as cool as an individual. It's not about, like I said it on Twitter, it's not about the individual performance at that point. It's about the futility of Philadelphia.
Right.
Like, it's not like it's, this one guy dominated. You say, you got dominated by 3 different guys and couldn't get a hit. You guys sucked today.
Yeah.
And so that's really how that went down. But so they win that game. Verlander pitched game 5, and he was mostly good, right? Like, he made it through 5 innings, which is what he needed to actually get a win, which, like, not only he was 0-6 in his 8 starts, and the 2 no decisions the team that Verlander was pitching for had lost. So the teams were 0-8 in Verlander's starts until game 5. And they managed to get that one done. It was a squeaker. Trey Mancini made a huge play at first base to prevent what would have been probably a go-ahead double going into the corner, and then Chas McCormick made just an epic catch at the wall in the 9th inning, and that was pretty much it. Because then game 6, it went back to Houston. Kyle Schwarber hit an absolute missile off of Framber Valdez, who was otherwise immaculate in that game, and then Yordan Alvarez just, oh my God, absolutely mashed the ball over the hitter's eye in center field. I was like, that is insane. Just absolutely crushed that ball for a 3-run dinger to basically put the game out of reach, and then the Astros wrapped it up. So after I said, that game 1 might have cost them the series, they go and win 3 straight and take home the trophy. So there you go.
Yep. I forget what I was about to say.
Shout out to Dusty Baker.
Well, shout out to Dusty Baker. I also really enjoyed the post-series chat with Justin Verlander and his wife. That just, like...
Juxtapose that with some other all-time great players and their...
now
ex-wives, and with regards to longevity in playing sports, but,
they're 2 very, very different sports.
Yes, one involves a lot of head trauma, and the other one is baseball, where a pitcher goes out there every 5 days.
Where the worst thing that you might have to deal with is, needing to get Tommy John surgery or something.
Well, he's already had that, so.
Yes. There you go. Before we move off of baseball, shout out to my boy Aaron Judge on winning the American League Hank Aaron Award for this year. He's also a finalist for the MVP. We'll see which way that goes. And the Yankees did submit a qualifying offer to him. Some people are a little bit going a little more nuts than they should over how low the offer was.
Really?
And a qualifying offer
Yankees
is a set
fans
number.
freaking out about nothing?
You can't make a higher qualifying offer. It's a set number.
Like it's not something that you can go and say, well, let's try and get this done. So it's a set number, and with how good he was, it was always going to be lower than what he was going to accept. The point is just that now, if they don't retain Aaron Judge, which I'm still being pissed about if that happens, but they'll get a compensatory pick.
Yeah, that's due diligence.
Yeah.
Right. It's literally called a qualifying offer. You make the offer so you could qualify for a compensatory pick. To basically say, hey, we tried to retain our free agent, and he said no. Yeah. I mean, the Orioles notoriously, I remember they made the qualifying offer to Matt Wieters.
He accepted.
And at the time, I don't think anybody had actually ever accepted a qualifying offer. And then Wieters accepted it, and I was like, did we want him to accept that? I feel like we didn't actually want him to accept that. And we ended up with having Matt Wieters for...
Yeah, you would have rather have the compensatory pick.
He had a couple of clutch home runs that season in Anaheim in particular. I remember because they couldn't solve, what was that puffball throwing lefty that they had? He sucked. I don't even know if he's still in the league. I forget what his name is.
That could be anybody.
Yeah. It could be Jared Weaver.
Jared Weaver, except he was a righty. But
yeah, I know, but I can't remember the lefty's name that, the Orioles just couldn't handle the soft stuff until Matt Wieters hit Napo Taco for a 3-run jack to flip the game. And I was like, okay, well, I'm kind of glad tonight that he accepted that qualifying offer. And then he walked the Orioles off with the Nats the next year, and the Orioles were 22-10, and that was pretty much the end of the season after that happened. So,
I didn't even remember all that.
I remember that.
The National League Hank Aaron Award goes to Paul Goldschmidt. I think we're pretty much in agreement that Aaron Judge deserves the AL MVP over Shohei Ohtani. Oh, yeah. Do we think that Paul Goldschmidt should be the NL MVP, or is there somebody else that we would throw in that mix?
I mean, it's a little.
I'd go Goldschmidt.
It's a little more of a crowded field in the NL. I think you could make a case for Goldschmidt. I think he's the favorite. I think he's going to win it.
He was amazing this year.
Yeah.
I don't know if you call it a comeback, but a resurgence, I would say. I mean, he hadn't been like that effective in the past few years, had he?
Last year he was.
Was he?
2021
okay.
He was, but before that there was a little bit of a period where he fell off a bit. Like he was still good.
Oh yeah,
but
sure.
Wasn't like.
But he was not. Goldschmidt. Yeah, he was not what we had come to expect from Paul Goldschmidt. 5 years ago.
Right. So I would say his teammate Nolan Arenado is certainly in the mix. But the National League leader in wins above replacement, according to Fangraphs, was one Manuel Arturo Machado. So, and Manny certainly has the narrative at his back too, given the fact that the Padres were in disarray. Friggin' Fernando Tatis was a no-show the entire year for various degrees of stupidity.
And they managed to make it to the NLCS.
And, of course, the playoffs don't factor in, but they made the playoffs nonetheless, and Manny was
Right.
great throughout the year. So I'm
After
figuring...
their big choke last year, too.
Yep, big choke last year. So I would guess that those would be your top three, but Goldschmidt has the inside track. He kind of has basically since, like, Machado was the leader probably in June until he had that ankle injury.
Yeah.
And then that kind of, he had like a rough few weeks just because he was coming back from that. Plus, it also affected his defensive metrics for that period of time. He was actually considered a negative defender just because he wasn't moving as well at third base as we've grown accustomed to see Manny move. And so that kind of hurt his defensive numbers. But, you know, Paul Goldschmidt has basically been the guy just because they're always going to favor the dude with the best hitting stats when it's a close race. And that's probably fair because the hitting stats are more reliable.
Yeah, I mean, I'd pick Goldschmidt just. I'm in a fantasy baseball league with my dad, and like my dad's team was terrible except for Paul Goldschmidt, and like I would tune in to the Cardinals games every now and then, and like I had Arenado on my team, and Arenado would, you know, hit into a double play or something, but then Goldschmidt behind him just cranks one over the fence. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. So,
at least Arenado was, you know, grinding double plays first, and so like your dad wasn't getting the extra points of somebody being on base for that home run.
Are your grounding into double plays as punitive in that league as they are in ours?
Well,
it's a rotisserie league, so you know, you don't get RBIs and. You know,
so rotisserie works a little bit differently. You don't get points based on like the
you
individual stats. Yeah, you're winning categories. So, and to be fair, we did lower how punitive the GIDPs were this year compared to last year.
So brutal when they ground. It was so bad.
Ground into a double play, minus 15. Like,
it wasn't that bad, but yeah.
Well, I mean, there are fantasy football leagues where they might do minus 15 points for a missed PAT.
I had that in that one league with two defenses back when the PATs were.
I think
most
line. Leagues have come
10.
off of that since they pushed back the PAT.
I would
but
hope so, because that's a pretty big penalty, and that means your kicker's having a much bigger influence on your fantasy game than they should.
But only if he sucks.
It is also an incentive to make sure you actually get a decent kicker. Don't be drafting a bunch of bums like, hey, it's a kicker, it doesn't matter. Well, in this league, it does, Sonny.
Yep. Find the teams that don't score any touchdowns, so you don't even have to worry about it.
Yeah, just take a 0.
Yeah. All right. Before we get to the bread and butter of our show, let's talk some college football. Evan, your Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets with a squeaker of a win at Virginia Tech on Saturday. I believe last week you said there was no chance that Georgia Tech would win this game.
I would have said, like, with 5 minutes left, there was no chance Georgia Tech was going to win this game. And, like, I wasn't even watching. I was out somewhere, like, running errands, or I was down here playing Call of Duty. But, yeah, I wasn't looking at the game. And then I get an alert on my phone, Georgia Tech wins. I'm like, what? Where did that come from? It was 27-14. And then all of a sudden, 2 touchdowns, and we find out, you know, who the real Tech is. You know, Georgia Institute of Technology over Virginia Polytechnic State University or whatever. Yeah, so, you know, Georgia Tech wins.
Georgia Institute of Technology is a much cooler name.
I agree.
Yeah. The VPISU, something. Yeah.
Tennessee lost to Georgia as we expected, and Alabama lost to LSU in overtime.
Yes.
That one was a little bit surprising, I believe.
It was a lot surprising. I'm like, I was on this podcast last week, and I'm like, well, the tide's going to roll. We know that. And that didn't happen.
Apparently we didn't know that.
Yeah. I was definitely sitting down here playing Call of Duty, and I got an alert on my phone. Alabama, LSU heading to overtime. I'm like, what? Overtime? Between them? Like, LSU's the most overrated team ever. So, you know, Alabama got the ball first, scored a touchdown, kicked extra point. LSU got the ball, scored a touchdown, I think on the first play of their overtime possession. They got a touchdown, and Brian Kelly decides to go for 2, and they get it. And, you know, LSU walks them off. So, like, I mean, I was entertained, This is the end of the line for Alabama this season in terms of making it to the college football playoff. They have 2 losses now. They lost to Tennessee a few weeks ago. Yeah, and I mean they don't really. I don't think they control their own destiny in terms of going to the SEC championship game either. Like they need a bunch of people to lose and stuff.
Well, because LSU's only lost 1 conference game.
I think they got waxed by Tennessee.
Yeah, so that means that Bama just lost to them. So if LSU wins out, there you have the inside track to win the West.
Yeah.
So, some games coming up this week. We've got a super exciting Big Noon Saturday between Indiana and number 2 Ohio State, who is favored but by a minuscule 40 points.
Take the Buckeyes.
Good
I'd still
Lord.
take the Buckeyes.
You got a 40-point spread on Big Noon Saturday.
In a conference game.
That's college football for you.
I don't want to see what the Terps are going to be underdogs by against Ohio State. That's going to be.
Oh, jeez.
I mean,
They're going to be 60-point underdogs.
I mean, they're better than Indiana. So there's that. Like the Terps should wax Indiana when they play them. But
Yep.
in fact, I think they already did. So I'm not too worried about our line being worse, but it's going to be huge. And plus, I also don't remember. I think we get Ohio State at home this year, so -6 off of whatever
Minus
35
-34.
I'll play a little guess the lines. I'll be cousin Sal here and guess Terps will be underdogs by 27 points against Ohio State.
All right. Well, we will see. College game day will be in Texas as the number 18 Longhorns host the number 4. What are they? The Horned Frogs of
Frogs.
TCU.
Horned Frogs.
That'll be on ABC at 7:30 p.m. Fox's 7 o'clock game will be number 6 Oregon hosting number 25 Washington. At 3:30 on ESPN2, you can catch number 17 Tulane hosting number 22 UCF. Probably the most interesting game of this weekend is going to be the 3:30 CBS game between Alabama and Ole Miss. It's number 9 Tide and number 11 Rebels, and that is at Ole Miss. So what do you guys think about that game? Can the Rebels pull that one off? Do we think that Alabama is going to bounce back and win?
I don't sense a lot of bouncing back from Alabama at this point. Like, it sort of reminds me of when the team, gets in one of those New Year's Six bowls, but it's not a CFP bowl game.
Mm-hmm.
And like some of those teams just sort of mail it in. So like, yeah, this is a big game, sort of a border rivalry type thing, but Ole Miss still has stuff to play for. And Alabama, like they can't really improve their situation.
Yeah,
much.
like Alabama doesn't have anything to play for compared to what they're used to playing for. Like, this is kind of uncharted territory for the Tide. We're not used to seeing them in a situation where they're not just on the outside looking in, but they're like firmly outside of the college football playoff.
Yeah, they're toast.
Like, this is a situation where even if we did have an expanded playoff, they're still on the outside looking in.
I think they'd make an
if it's
expanded
expanded to
playoff.
12, they would get in.
Well, sure.
Yeah.
But at 8,
But 12 is going to be the number.
sure.
So.
Um,
Oh, by the way, Terps are playing at Penn State. They're 10-point dogs, so they're playing at 3:30. So
see how that one goes. And Evan's Yellow Jackets are 1.5-point favorites against Miami. That'll
home.
be that's at home. That's a 3:30 game on ESPN3.
Hoping
Thoughts on
for
that
an
game?
ESPN1 effort, though.
Thoughts on that game, Evan?
I mean, the Georgia Tech Miami games just heartbreaking, right? Like, it was in 2010. It was my birthday, and we were down 21-0 in the first quarter. And then in 2012, we're hosting Miami again. That game was at 3:30. It went to double overtime. Georgia Tech loses, and like I was just exhausted, like mentally, physically, everything. Like, these Miami games are just frustrating. But they did win in 2008 with a pick six from Michael Johnson. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I was holding out hope that maybe your guys could end up going bowling, but after Miami, you're at Chapel Hill to face number 15 North Carolina, and then, well, good old clean fashion hate or whatever you guys call it, or whatever. Y'all gonna get your ass whooped in Athens in rivalry week. So,
well, we haven't beaten them in Atlanta since 1999. So at least we won in Athens in 08, 14, and 16.
I don't think you're winning there in 2022.
I mean, we weren't supposed to win there in 08 either. So.
Hey, you beat Matt Stafford, your boy.
Yeah, and I'm still not over the 2009 game where, Georgia Tech is ranked and good, and the Dogs are struggling to get bowl eligible, and we blow a game to their quarterback was Joe Cox that night. Unbelievable.
So shout out to the basketball Terps, made their season debut on Monday. Got a win against the Niagara Purple Eagles.
Oh.
Not a fan of that.
Well, I guess DeMath is not the only team beating Purple Eagles out here.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Let's jump to the NFL. Quite a bit to talk about. We'll start with Evans Ravens, as we often do. Just a couple of nights ago, Monday Night Football in New Orleans, a 27-13 victory for the Baltimore Ravens. We were all wrong when we picked the Saints against the spread in that game. Is the defense back for Baltimore, or does New Orleans' offense just suck?
I mean, it's probably a little of both, right? Like it's never one or the other.
I don't think it's never one or the other.
I mean, yeah, well, maybe, I don't know. Anyway, I italicized the Ravens defense in our document here because it's sort of the Ravens defense sort of has it brings up memories of Ray Lewis and Ed Reed and Terrell Suggs and
well, this is definitely not that defense.
So is the Ravens defense back? Like, well, maybe. I was really impressed with the way Roquan Smith played and the impact he had immediately. In more ways than one, right? Like the impact was felt by Alvin Kamara in the first quarter. Like,
game. Alvin Kamara didn't really do much of anything on Monday night.
Yeah, no, not really. So the defense seemed like they knew what they were supposed to be doing. The pass rush was ferocious. The secondary only had one big bust, and that was in garbage time. So yeah, I was really impressed by the defensive effort. Oh my goodness, the Ravens linebacking core has been a severe weak spot for years, probably for about 10 years now, and like now it seems like it's all shored up.
I mean, I remember growing up, like the top three defenses from one year to the next, or at least three of the top five defenses every year seemed to be Baltimore, Pittsburgh, Washington.
Washington, really?
Oh yeah, okay. At one point, Washington was consistently one of those top defenses in the NFL.
Okay, I know the Ravens and Steelers would kind of go back and forth. I think it was like 2010 or 11. They were 1-2 on defense. Like,
I don't know if the Washington.
This is like leading up to and during some of London Fletcher's time in Washington. I'm talking like a while ago.
Yeah, they had some good defenses, but number one.
I'm saying like them, Baltimore and Pittsburgh were always like in the top five. Like all three of those teams were among the top five. I'm not saying Washington was number one
or number two.
Not necessarily.
They were usually somewhere in the.
But they were in that top five most of the time for a good 5 or 6 years there.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, they had some good defensive talent. They just
their offense was
terrible. Was putrid. They had no quarterback. They had no offensive line.
Yeah.
Casey Robach.
Did you watch Kyle Bowler play? Like, the Ravens would like a word on that.
We did, and y'all were as bad as the R words usually looked that year because you had Kyle Bowler. When you had Steve McNair, you won a bunch of games.
And then the
Right.
next year we had Steve McNair, and he ran out the back of the end zone and didn't win a bunch of games.
Well, he was washed at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. Lamar Jackson, I think he was okay. He missed a few wide open guys.
He did.
Like some, just
He's
like,
usually
just-
more accurate than
just
that.
put it on him, man. Just throw the ball to the guy, right? I understand that's easier said than done. But then, like later in the game, Lamar, I'd never seen him actually express frustration like on the field. So like there was they took too long to get the snap off like 2 or 3 times in a row. And so like in the process of being called for delay of game, Lamar catches the late snap and spikes it into the ground, and it bounces toward the center, and he's yelling at somebody to snap the ball. And like, him and Ronnie Stanley got face mask to face mask for a little bit, but it was a little, sort of, I don't know about upsetting, but a little frustrating to see that level of frustration. But like, you don't get mad at people, or you don't get mad about things you don't care about, right? Like, if you don't care, then what's the point of getting worked up? But if you get really worked up and bent out of shape, that means you are mentally, emotionally, physically, financially invested in whatever the thing is. So, going to take the next 13 days of the bye week and, work out all the little issues. And, it's really only going up from here. So got the Panthers in a couple weeks. So, should roll them, but we'll see.
Yep. Ravens join the Bengals, Patriots, and Jets on bye this week. Let's talk about some of the other players and teams and coaches that we need to talk about from Week 9. I want to start with some of the good. Justin Fields. He's had some really good games lately, and this past Sunday it was fantastic. He set an NFL record for rushing yards in a single game by a quarterback.
In the
regular season. He is the first player, at least this season, in either conference to win a Player of the Week award in a losing effort.
Oh.
He's really been turning it on lately, but as much as he's been running the ball really well lately, I got to say he's been throwing the ball better lately too. Like, that's really the thing that's impressed me the most. Like, at this point, Cole Kmet, who, the first 2 weeks of the season, he had 1 target in each game, no catches, didn't really do a whole lot after that. He's caught 3 touchdowns in the past 2 games. And I'm not saying that he's necessarily going to continue to be a touchdown monster, but he's starting to get targets. He's starting to get catches. At this point, he becomes a viable fantasy tight end, particularly if you're in a pinch on a bye week. He's a legitimate streaming option now at that position. And big part of that is that Justin Fields is starting to figure out how to throw the ball effectively against NFL defenses. And I'm really glad to see that. I'm here for it.
Oh yeah, I was a big fan of Justin Fields coming out of the draft. I thought that he was a project to some extent, that he would need some time, and I was concerned when he went to the Bears for obvious reasons. The Bears are a trash organization and
did not have an offensive-minded head coach.
Well, they did, but he just didn't have any interest in actually being a head coach anymore. Apparently, Matt Nagy decided he was just going to check out.
Yeah.
And then he's coaching with the Chiefs now.
He's back with the Chiefs.
I saw him like behind Andy Reid with the wearing a visor and having a clipboard and stuff.
So he's still rocking the bald visor look.
I think so. Yeah.
I mean, if he's wearing a visor, he definitely didn't become less bald. Or
it was a night game too.
Okay,
so.
Well, there you go. Extra shiny with the bright lights on his dome. But anyway, then they hire Matt Eberflus, who has a delightful name, but certainly is not a not an offensive-minded coach. I'm not going to speak to his overall coaching acumen because I think he's actually done a decent job given the fact that the Bears certainly haven't helped their young quarterback very much. But, he or whoever is running their offense has understood that, one, you don't have very many good pass catchers on your team, right? Like, Darnell Mooney is your number one receiver. You don't have a number one receiver. Like, let's just call it what it is. He's okay. He's pretty good. Like, we talked about DJ Moore being kind of a 2 playing as a 1. Mooney feels more like a 3 playing as a 1. So
they brought in Chase Claypool, who I would say is more of a 2 playing.
Right, but I'm talking like even before before the trade deadline.
Okay.
Yeah. So not a whole lot to work with there, but understanding the wide receiver core is not great. The offensive line is pretty bad, and the quarterback is raw, right? Like, he's not going to be able to just sit back there and diagnose a defense in 2.5 seconds with a bad offensive line. So you got to take advantage of the skills that he has, and the skills he has is his ability to run, which is second to only maybe Lamar Jackson in the NFL. Like, he's a phenomenal runner with the football. Like, he reminds me of Josh Allen with his size and his speed, and they need to lean into that more, and they have.
The Bears offensive coordinator is Bill Lazor, who is a Cornell graduate, looks like.
Oh, was he another one of these nerds that they hired just because it's like
No,
like Mike
he played
McDaniel?
football at Cornell.
Okay, so he's actually a football player. He's not Mike McDaniel.
Well, I mean, to play football in the Ivy League, you have to be good at football and a nerd at the same time.
Sure.
Speaking of Mike McDaniel, because the Bears were playing against the Dolphins this past week, I really enjoyed his quote after the game where he apparently been yelling at Justin Fields during the game to stop it. Mm-hmm. And so after the game, the reporter asked him about it. It's like, yeah, like, I want him to stop running the ball, and I was getting irritated because he wouldn't stop. Like, I love that.
It's just fun.
I mean, yeah, it's supposed to be fun, Yeah. We do all this stuff for fun. I've watched some of that game. It popped up on the red zone regularly because every 3 minutes one of the teams was in the red zone about to score again, and just back and forth. Come on, Bears, could you help the AFC teams out a little bit?
Somebody else who would have liked a certain somebody to stop it was the Carolina Panthers, because Joe Mixon, I think he just scored another touchdown. Found the end zone 5 times in that game, 4 times on the ground, a 5th time through the air. I mean, what a day for him. One of the best games by a running back in NFL history. I think this is the second biggest fantasy day by standard scoring is what people were saying.
I was pretty ambivalent because I have Joe Mixon on my team in the other league, but I'm also a Saints fan, and I love me some Alvin Kamara, and I was getting a little worried that Kamara's 6 touchdown record was in a little bit of trouble because I'm pretty sure Mixon had 4 touchdowns at halftime.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
So I'm like, what's happening? Can y'all stop?
You think he was going to get 3 more to break the record?
He could have.
He was more than halfway there.
Yeah.
That's true.
Or
Y'all
even if he
picked
gets
the
2, I would
Panthers.
have been mad.
Yeah, we did pick the Panthers.
That was a mistake.
It was 42-0.
I know.
That finished up 42-21.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
The Panthers did score 3 times.
I know.
But yeah.
That's so bad.
So yeah, shout outs to Justin Fields and Joe Mixon on a couple of amazing days this past weekend. Tom Brady becomes the first quarterback in NFL history to reach 100,000 passing yards, which is just an insane number, even if he has been playing for 1.5 million years.
And he's played more playoff games than anybody as well.
Yeah,
So.
and that those count toward that total. But still, good for him.
I think 100,000 yards is 57 miles. So
That sounds. Yeah, I guess that sounds about right.
So
Yeah.
about another 400 to get to Kings Island.
yeah,
Patrick Mahomes and Tyreek Hill are both currently on pace to set NFL single-season records for passing and receiving yards, and they're on different teams now. So the whole question of who's making who, well, it sounds like both are just really, really good.
Well, yeah, and it also helps that Mahomes threw the ball 68 times against the Titans of all teams. And I was like, well, I know that the Chiefs' run game is hit or miss, but just surprising that it took that kind of effort, especially because they only
won by
points.
3 and they needed overtime.
Yeah, they scored 17 points in regulation.
Yeah.
And the reason they were able to score the tying drive is because of Mahomes running the ball. Like he picked up a 3rd and 17 because nobody on the Titans bothered to tackle the quarterback after he crossed the line of scrimmage, and I was just apoplectic. But Mahomes has been really, really good. Like I said it a couple weeks ago, he's probably the front runner at this point to win the MVP. A couple weeks ago, he probably wasn't. It was probably Josh Allen. Jalen Hurts certainly has a case.
Yeah.
But this is the best version of Patrick Mahomes. You're not seeing it statistically. Obviously, the yard number is nice, but in terms of like efficiency, passer rating, DVOA, adjusted net yards per attempt, all the crap that the nerds like us care about.
Yeah.
He's not dominating the world in those like he usually does, but that's in large part because he doesn't have Tyreek Hill.
Yeah. But there's been a lot of jostling for position in that MVP race, and I don't know that that Mahomes is leading right now is necessarily going to hold. We were talking early in the season, Lamar Jackson was running away with it, and now he's firmly out of the conversation because he hasn't really had a standout game since week 3.
Yeah, he's been up and down since that point. And then of course Josh Allen's had a couple of iffy games, and we don't even know.
Yeah, we don't know what his status is going to be going forward. It sounds like he may be limited this week. He may not be fully healthy at all for the rest of the season, and how much that's going to affect his ability to throw the ball and everything. Like,
who deserves some consideration is Mr. Tua Tagovailoa.
Tua has been outstanding. I mean, he's been amazing.
He is
all of those bombs to Tyreek Hill are underthrown every single time.
But there was the same case with Patrick Mahomes. Basically, all of his bombs to Tyreek Hill were underthrown.
That's true.
I have a hard time imagining.
I don't ever remember seeing Mahomes throw Tyreek Hill open or get it to him on the dead run. It was always underthrown.
Well,
to be fair,
Tyreek Hill is really fast.
It's really easy to underthrow Tyreek Hill because he's so damn fast.
Yeah.
So, you consider that part. But I think the number is 1, 2, 3. Just doing off based on my own knowledge, Tua is currently on pace to have the 5th highest DVOA in a season recorded since 1981, because that's how far back the stat goes. There's 2 Manning seasons, Marino in '84 and Brady in '07, and then Tua for the only seasons with a DVOA north of 50, which is a 50 plus DVOA should be an automatic MVP, but Tua's missed a little bit of time. And to be clear, Peyton Manning did not win the MVP in 2006 when he had a 51 DVOA because he'd only had 31 touchdown passes because the Colts' run defense was so bad that the Colts only had so many offensive possessions because the clock would get run out.
Yep.
But Manning, when he was on the field, was just absolutely dominant.
Yep.
Who did win the MVP that year?
LaDainian Tomlinson.
LaDainian Tomlinson.
And, in fact, Manning wasn't even the all-pro selection for quarterback. That went to Drew Brees because that was his first year in New Orleans, and he probably got some narrative vibes because the Saints were 3-13. Brees comes over after the torn labrum and leaves San Diego.
And then, after the hurricane.
Yeah, after the hurricane. And the Saints go 10-6. Brees leads the league in passing yards. He was great, but he wasn't as good as Peyton Manning was.
Yeah. So the other thing that we got to talk about, kind of the big story from this past week and really the coming out of Week 9, is Frank Reich fired as the head coach of the Indianapolis Colts, and Jim Irsay decides that he's going to bring in a guy with. What was that?
Irsay. You said Irsay.
Oh.
I wasn't sure if that was maybe. Have I been mispronouncing his name the whole time?
I've always heard it Irsay.
I've never heard Irsay in my life.
Well, Irsay, whatever his last name is, he decides he's going to bring in a guy without any, not just no head coaching experience, no coaching experience whatsoever in the NFL
or in college.
And I don't know if he's coached in high school or not, but
I think he coached in high school.
Maybe he coached in high school.
3-10
Jeff Saturday, the longtime 6-time Pro Bowler center for the Peyton Manning era Indianapolis Colts, is going to be the interim head coach for the rest of the season. And My question is just why?
I think I know the answer. They're tanking.
Well, enlighten us, because I don't.
They're tanking.
I feel like they could tank with somebody in-house who has – John Fox is in the building. He's part of the Indianapolis Colts organization.
Tank with him.
I didn't know that he was actually there.
He's in the building. He's not a coordinator or anything, but he's already in the building, and he's a bad enough coach that you can absolutely tank with him, and you could actually sell the narrative. Like, you could sell that. Like, he has head coaching experience at least. Like, that makes a little bit of sense. This is just weird.
It feels like Irsay called in a favor. Like he called in a favor. He's like, nobody's gonna want this crappy job, even if it's on an interim basis. It's still a bad look on the resume. So why don't you come in here, hold it down? He has plenty of experience being on a tanking team. He was on that 2011 Colts team that sucked for luck. So he's familiar with the effort. I'm just saying. He was pulled off of ESPN, and it was hilarious because from a trying to win football game standpoint, this move makes no sense. But then again, ESPN has a lot of personalities that worked with Jeff Saturday, and they love him, so they had to couch it like, well, Ryan Clark's on there. He's our boy, but, this is kind of strange. Like I feel like
Darren Orlovsky didn't really have much to say, and there's some conjecture that Darren Orlovsky thinks that Jeff Saturday is like going to get him ahead, or a coaching position somewhere along the line.
I don't think Jeff Saturday is going to have the power to do that.
I don't
he's
think
going to be up out of there at the end of the year.
I agree, but that's the conjecture, which I found
interesting. It should be noted, Dan Orlovsky was the anti-tank for that Colts team. He won them their 2 games.
That's true.
When they looked like they were about to lose all of them with Curtis Painter. I think they brought in Kerry Collins' corpse for the first week, and he got hurt.
Collins?
He got injured week 1, and it didn't matter because he was terrible. So then they actually had to run Curtis Painter out there, who, the Colts were following that philosophy of, why bother with the backup quarterback? Because if Peyton Manning gets hurt, we're screwed. Well, Curtis Painter is the epitome of that, where it's like, we're going to get the worst backup quarterback possible. Like, there's no Matt Castle here. There's no, Matt Hasselbeck became a backup later.
There's no Colt McCoy.
No, anything like that. Or even Jimmy Garoppolo, or Jacoby Brissett. No, we're going to put the biggest bum we can find out there. They might as well play Jeff Sorgi.
Jim Sorgi.
Jim Sorgi, I'm sorry, yeah. Whatever his name is. It's close enough.
I forgot all about Jim Sorgi. Oh, my God.
So... again, I feel like this is just a Jeff Saturday come in, hold it down while we suck for C.J. Stroud, I guess, and go from there. But people are talking about the Rooney Rule, and this doesn't apply because this is for an interim hire.
Yeah.
And Bomani Jones pointed this out astutely, as he usually does on things like that. It's like, this isn't a job you want as a prospective black head coach, because you would come in. The team would lose maybe all the games. You would get fired, and that would hurt your track record as a head coach, because people would say, well, damn, you oversaw that joke of a team the last half of that season, and you don't really want that opportunity. You want a team that can actually maybe build something. Like, you don't want to be like David Culley, who took that just ridiculous job from the Texans, did a better job, overperformed, and they fired him anyway.
Right. No, I definitely agree with that. And my concern with this has really just been that I don't like when somebody gets a job, like a head coaching job, without any experience. I don't like when you have somebody who hasn't even been a coordinator who all of a sudden is thrust into a head coaching job. Now, to be fair,
Freddie Kitchens.
Most of the time when this has happened, it's been because they had a cup of coffee with Sean McVay. Like, there's always, a lot of times these days, there's a McVay connection or something like that. But yeah, you have a situation like a Freddie Kitchens. You have a situation like Jim Zorn.
Well, that was...
Jim Zorn was a very weird... that was a little bit different. That was a very weird situation.
Yeah, that was different because they hired him as the offensive coordinator before they got a head coach. Nobody else wanted the job, so Dan said, hey, you're it, buddy.
Right, but he still hadn't actually had coordinator experience before.
Nope.
He had never coached a game as a coordinator. He'd spent 2 days as a coordinator in the offseason.
Yeah. Hadn't even met any of the players probably.
Right. So like it's different, but it's not that different. So that's really been my big concern. But I mean, I think you make a really good point even about that. Like somebody who has experience as a head coach and would potentially want to be a head coach again also would not want this position. So I think that's a fair point.
So what the hell? You said it, but I was just still caught by surprise. What the hell is John Fox doing?
He's some sort of like I forget what exactly his position is.
He's
Is
made
he
enough.
is he doing the Butch Jones role in Nick Saban's staff?
The
one of
rehabilitation role where you just sit around and somebody says, "Hey, Bama's good," except Bama's not that good anymore. You know, like Mike Locksley rejuvenated his head coaching prospects by becoming Alabama's offensive coordinator.
He is a senior defensive assistant.
That just sounds made up.
Yeah. So they don't even have an offensive coordinator right now.
Well,
Their defensive coordinator is Gus Bradley. Make him the head coach. He's been a head coach.
yeah, and they
These are
fired
the Jaguars.
They fired their offensive coordinator, and then they tapped some dude who like worked in the film room or something like that for the Colts.
I think it's Parks Frazier, who was like the assistant quarterbacks coach and like the pass game specialist or something.
he had zero experience as a play caller either.
Yeah.
So
He has been in like a coach in the NFL for 8 years, so at least like he's been around the game, but still.
I should have tapped Peyton Manning.
No, we want Peyton Manning on ESPN too.
He's gonna be off for like 3 weeks, so let Peyton coach the Colts for like a couple weeks. He gets tired of it. He's like, that was terrible. Then bring Jeff Saturday and just have like a carousel of former Colts. Go get Reggie Wayne.
When I was looking through I was looking through their coaching roster the other day, and I realized Reggie Wayne is actually on their coaching staff as their wide receivers coach.
Oh, that's cool.
It is cool.
Go get Marvin Harrison. Tell him to leave the guns at home.
Jeez. Moving on.
I hope Marvin doesn't hear this, or else you might not see your boy again.
Last week was the trade deadline coming out of week 8, and we talked about a lot of big moves on last week's show. But in the time since then, apparently several teams have reached out to the league office asking if in the future we can have the trade deadline moved from following week 8 to following week 10. What do we think about this?
Well, normally trade deadlines are in the quote-unquote back half of the season, right? Like in baseball, it's just a couple weeks after the All-Star break. Like that's usually...
Which is already technically more than halfway through the season.
It's like 2/3 of the way through the season in baseball. Whereas week 8 is still very much in the front half. It's an 18-week season now. I mean, obviously, this doesn't really move the needle either way for me. I'm not going to be like, oh, week 10 trade deadline, I'm not watching football anymore. That's not going to happen. But I think it makes some sense. I mean, you have a little bit better of an idea of where your teams are at.
Yeah, whether you're selling, whether you're buying.
Yeah, like it's harder to get a view of what to expect. Like if you're like look at I'll use the Bucks as an example. Although the Bucks are in a little bit of a unique situation given the fact that
their division is really bad.
The division is terrible, and they've got Tom Brady, so it's really hard to justify ever selling when you've got Tom Brady on your roster.
Yep.
And your team is actually somehow still in contention for your crummy division. But, a couple weeks later, the Bucks could easily be at the end of week 10, they could be 5-5. Right?
Yeah.
Like that's not out of the question. And at which point most teams aren't going to be interested in selling at 5-5 when you've got 7 out of 16 teams making the playoffs, especially in a weak NFC.
Yep. In our fantasy football league, our boy Eric kicked off selling season. Our trade deadline is still a couple of weeks away, or almost 2 weeks away. But we've had quite a few trades this week, and it started with Eric trading Dalvin James Cook to Brandon Saunders for James Dalvin Cook. They also had a little bit of a pick swap there, so it wasn't like
that's why I made the trade.
Right. So Eric moves up 2 rounds in next year's draft. I think you got a 4th and gave up a 6th. Is that right?
That was Brandon's counter offer because I literally only cared about the pick swap, so I was perfectly willing to give my initial offer to Brandon was I'll give you Dalvin Cook for Chuba Hubbard, which Chuba Hubbard, I don't even think he's healthy.
No, he fully practiced yesterday. And he's still listed as questionable for this weekend.
Right. So it was literally just a warm body for me to take back.
Yeah.
And then I wanted a third. I was willing to do a third for a fifth. And then Brandon made a counter offer and said, I'll give you a fourth for a sixth, and I'll give you James Cook instead. And I was like, I mean, I'm not going to sit there and say no to a fourth for a sixth. The whole point of this is I'm selling.
Right.
Like I thought the third for a fifth, that was a high ball offer anyway. And I figured if he comes back with fourth or a sixth, I'm going to jump on it. And so I did that. And, it was definitely a G's move in silence, like lasagna type of play, where I'm like trying to make sure nobody knows I'm doing this. Because Steven's out there just blurting out, I might start selling this week. And I'm like, no, I don't want you to do that because you're going to gum up the market. I need to get in here first because there's only so many people that are going to be willing to give up picks for stuff. I actually looked at your roster first, Corey, and I was like, Corey doesn't need help anywhere. He's not going to give me anything. He's going to be just rolling with his team. So I was like, well. So I looked at Sean's roster. He needed some wide receiver help, so I offered him CeeDee Lamb. He effectively told me to go screw myself with that. And he rejected the trade. He didn't make a counter. I was like, okay, whatever. I got my pick from Brandon. That's good enough. But
Alex Kincaid got mad at me today because he sent me an offer. He was going to give me Tyreek Hill for Alec Pierce, and there was going to be pick swap. So Alec Pierce is like the rookie wide receiver for the Colts.
Okay. I guess he's good.
So he's behind.
He's
your
good,
boy
but like
Campbell.
they've got Sam Ellinger now at quarterback, and like he already wasn't that effective with Matt Ryan.
Couldn't beat the
So,
Colts.
but there was gonna be a pick swap there too. But I'm sitting there like I'm in a pretty good position right now. I'm not trying I don't feel like I really need to sell next year for this year.
No.
And not like the other thing is Tyreek Hill is the number one fantasy wide receiver right now. So that'd be nice to have. But like I already kind of have like an embarrassment of riches right now.
Yes,
like
you do.
So because yesterday I did execute a trade with Anthony Battle that was actually mutually beneficial, I think. So he sent me Tom Brady. He sent me Alvin Kamara and Zach Ertz and like a late round pick, and I gave him Tua Tagovailoa. I gave him Miles Sanders and Gerald Everett and like a pick 2 rounds earlier. So I think we swapped like 8th and 10th round picks or something. So like I didn't like I figured most of my roster next year is going to be made up by the time we get to that point anyway.
Yeah.
So that's not a big deal to me. And I get an upgrade at running back. I get an upgrade at tight end, and Tua doesn't really mean anything to me because we're already past the Eagles bye and I have Jalen Hurts. Meanwhile, for Anthony, he gets, I think, a pretty good upgrade because Tua's been balling out. He's been amazing. So he gets a pretty good upgrade at quarterback, and he still has decent players to plug in at running back. I mean, he already has 2 really good running backs in Aaron Jones and Josh Jacobs. So he didn't this is a flex player anyway. So I think it was fairly mutually beneficial, maybe a little bit more beneficial to me than to him, but he also gets a couple rounds earlier of a pick next year.
Yeah, I mean,
But I didn't need to add Tyreek Hill on top of that. Like I have my running backs right now are Christian McCaffrey, Alvin Kamara. I've got Travis Etienne, plus at wide receiver I've got Jalen Waddle, A.J. Brown, DeAndre Hopkins. If he ever decides to be healthy again, I've got Keenan Allen.
you don't even need Keenan Allen.
And I don't even Keenan Allen is just kind of chilling on my bench. I'm right now I'm already pulling my hair out over whether I'm going to start Travis Etienne or DeAndre Hopkins this week. And you give me Tyreek Hill. Now I'm trying to figure out who else am I going to bench.
Yeah, exactly. Like you got.
Oh no, poor you.
Yeah, well, that's why Corey didn't make the trade.
It does become a little bit of a headache.
Oh, you didn't make the trade.
No, I didn't make
Not
the
for
trade.
Tyreek Hill, no.
No.
That would be
Okay.
Especially
that's
because I think Alex wanted he wanted like a 3rd and a 5th for a 6th and an 8th or
Oh
something
no
like that.
way! That your team would be terrible next year.
Yeah,
In all likelihood.
yeah.
So
I'm
that-
like, my team is good enough. If I don't win the championship this year, I'm not gonna cry about it. I really hope I win it. I think I'm in a really good
I
position to
think
win
you are
it.
too. Yeah.
But I don't. it's worked out for a couple of managers in the past couple of years where they've made those late season moves and it's wound up, paying off and they've won a title or at least made it to the championship game.
Yeah.
It worked for Evan. It worked for Steven. But that's not always going to work out. Like, the playoffs are unpredictable. Some players just end up having bad games. And if I wind up selling next year and not winning the championship, well, now I'm sad 2 years in a row.
Yeah, in all likelihood, you're screwed.
And I'm sad all offseason because I already know that it's going to be bad next year.
Well, the funny thing is, again, Steven was on the chat basically, doing one of these.
He's like, wait. Well, I did make him an offer for the Cowboys defense. But it was going to be a late round pick swap, and he was like, I don't want it. And I'm like, that's fine. I don't really need the Cowboys defense. I just figured, you're over here waiting for an offer.
Well,
let me see if you'll bite.
I went out and made the offer myself. I was like, okay, I need to sell because I was like, I came into this week and I was like, I'm 3-5. Corey's, you're what? Like you were 6-2.
I'm 7-2
now you're 7-2 now.
Yep.
And I was like, okay, I knew I was toast, but I was like, I can't sell without giving at least the best possible effort to beat Corey this week and maybe keep my hopes alive, knowing full well I was going to get my ass kicked.
Speaking of which, you got to figure out a plan for your quarterback because you still got Joe Burrow in there on bye.
Yeah, no, I got. Do I have somebody?
I don't think you have a quarterback on your bench, so you got to pick up somebody
I
like
don't
Jimmy
care.
Garoppolo.
Clearly, I don't care. I have folded it up this year. I've accepted my fate. I'm willing to take the Sacco in order to improve my chances. In fact, I've said it all year.
You're gonna have to do a punishment.
Yeah, this is a punishment.
I'm fine with that. In fact, I think there might be something to
one of the commissioners having to do the
right?
first year, just to make sure we set that precedent.
I'm a charter member of this league. I'm the co-commissioner somehow. I have a good track record. I've won a lot of games. I have a title, right? Like, it's not like I'm being picked on here if I take a Sacco punishment.
Yeah.
And so that would encourage people to be like, hey, don't feel bad if this happens to you because this guy had to eat something. I don't know what y'all are going to do to me if I end up doing it. I'm not saying I'm going to automatically just get the Sacco on purpose.
Sure.
But I was like, you know what?
If it happens, it happens.
It wasn't going to stop me from selling. Like, I wasn't going to be like, oh, well, no, I don't want to sell because I got to make sure I beat Drew in the Sacco game. Right? Like,
Just assuming Drew's going to be in it.
well, he's in the running.
He certainly is.
He's 2-7.
He has the worst record. He is alone with the worst record in the AFL right now.
Yeah, I mean,
okay.
there's still a chance I could avoid the Sacco bracket altogether, right?
There is.
Because, like, there's some people that I'm 3-6.
But it's going to be a lot harder with you selling.
Well, like, Dalvin Cook's been disappointing. What do I care? Like,
He's still scoring some points, but he's very frustrated.
some points.
He is so frustrated.
It's not like I gave up 2016 David Johnson here. Like, if I had 2016 David Johnson, I wouldn't be in this position.
At least I gave him up before I knew that he was going to be 2016 David Johnson.
And you said I don't like to see you do well. I was like, there's only 2 years in our fantasy league where I rooted against Corey. I rooted against you in 2014 because you talked all that smack all year. And then I rooted against you in 2015 because you swiped David Johnson from me. But other than that, I'm like, I got no issue with Corey doing well. It's like those 2 years I was pissed. But other than that, it's been fine. I was willing to help you out, but you don't need any help.
Yeah.
I mean, my suggestion for the punishment would be the 24 hours in a Waffle House thing, or having to be a grown man to go take the SAT.
Well, it's going to be up to whoever wins the Pro Bowl.
I will, again, there's no guarantee that I win it. In fact, it's not even necessarily likely that I do because I'm right in there with a bunch of other crappy teams. Like, I could win 1 out of 2 against the worst teams in the league. But if I do, I'll eat it. It'll be fine.
Eat at Waffle House.
Yeah.
Be good.
Best and worst of Week 9. Best quarterback of the week was, speak of the devil, Tua Tagovailoa. He was fantastic. I think Justin Fields was number 2 on that list. At the very bottom was Sam Ellinger. So also speak of the devil there.
Couldn't beat the Terps.
Top running back by both total and rushing DYAR was Joe Mixon. No surprise there. The worst by total DYAR was A.J. Dillon. The worst by rushing DYAR, somebody I had not heard of, J.J. Taylor. He's a running back for the Patriots. He had no successful runs on 10 attempts. So he actually had a decent number of carries and did not have a single run that was categorized a success. No first downs.
Against the Colts as well.
Right, against the Colts. No first downs. No, 5-yard gains on first down or 3-yard gains on 2nd and 6 or whatever. Yeah, rough day for him. The best wide receiver of the week was Tyreek Hill. He's been amazing all season. And the worst of the week was Kendrick Bourne.
Who's Kendrick Bourne play for?
He's still with the Patriots.
Okay, I wasn't sure.
Yeah, so the worst running back and the worst wide receiver were
Michael
Patriots.
Bourne.
Yeah,
played for the
And
Orioles.
they won.
And they won. Yes. Congratulations to Andrew. Even though Eric is predicting him to be in the Sacco, he did win last week's fan contest with 7 points. It's his second straight win. He beat all the three of us. I won the host contest with 6 wins. Evan and Eric both had 4. Evan still leads the season-long contest with 69 wins. I've got 67. Eric has 66. James Daly leads the fan contest across the season with 63, but Andrew and Sean Kennedy are not too far behind.
I've got to ridicule a trade offer I just received.
You just received a trade offer from Alex or Steven?
Alex Kincaid.
Alex Kincaid.
He wants me to give him Darren Waller for Kyle Pitts, and then he wants my 7th, and I take his 9th. Dude, I'm selling.
Right? Yeah.
Like
if you were in a buying situation, sure, but you're selling.
Like, unless I can get some keeper value out of Pitts, which I don't think I can because he was probably an early pick.
Yeah, I think
he's underperformed.
I think he was like a 2nd or 3rd round pick or something.
Yeah, and he's the number 16 ranked tight end.
Season.
Like, he's not even worthy of starting at tight end. And I'm going to keep him in the 2nd round next year. That's crazy talk. Plus, the Falcons aren't getting a good quarterback next year because they're winning too many games.
They are.
So, no.
Because the rest of the division is so bad.
I'm not even countering that. No,
Yeah.
Stop.
So this week, as far as lone wolf picks, Evan was alone picking the Bengals to beat the 7.5-point spread against Carolina. I had 2 successful lone wolf picks. I picked the Lions to cover the 3.5-point spread versus Green Bay, and I picked the Commanders to cover the 3.5-point spread against Minnesota, which they barely did. 3 points was the margin there. So I get to pick first this week in our Eliminate a Team contest. Evan will go second because he did have that lone wolf win. Eric will go third. I have so far eliminated the Giants, Panthers, Falcons, Commies, Texans, Lions, Raiders, Browns, and Bears. And this week, I am doing it. I am killing the Colts, Indianapolis. See ya, a team that none of the three of us had eliminated yet. And I feel like if they were not on your guys' radar, they probably should have been this week. So I'm going to go ahead and be the first to get rid of them. Evan, you have eliminated the Texans, Jets, Panthers, Falcons, Commies, Steelers, Lions, Broncos, and Raiders. Who is your next team to eliminate?
I want to issue an apology to loyal listener James Daly, but he is a fan of the Green Bay Packers.
He is.
They're done. It's over. They have no squad.
Another team that has not been eliminated by any of the three of us, so pretty good pick there for you, Evan, assuming it does come to fruition, which it certainly is looking
It's
like
a pretty
it.
safe bet, I think.
They're home underdogs to the Cowboys this week.
They are, by 5 points.
Yeah.
The Cowboys are pretty good.
Yeah, but they also have Mike McCarthy as their coach.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm still probably
The
fading. I'm
Packers
still
are
probably
so
fading
bad.
the Packers because it's been working.
Yes.
I can't believe that I was the only one fading the Packers
I
this
don't know what
past
I was
week.
thinking. I've said all year, fade the pack, and then I didn't. And
You didn't, and it did
Yeah,
not work.
but the Lions,
You
though,
get what you
the
get.
Lions are full.
okay, but the Lions are, they still do well against the spread compared to the Packers.
Yep.
Should have seen it coming.
Eric, you have eliminated the Seahawks, Falcons, Bears, Jets, Steelers, Raiders, Broncos, Panthers, and Lions.
Oh man, you guys took all the good picks.
Oh.
That's what happens when you bring up the rear. You get stuck with the trash. But I thought I had somebody on standby here for a swift and easy elimination. Who is it though? Yes, I do. Houston Texans.
Oh yeah, you have not
You haven't
eliminated
eliminated them
Houston
yet?
yet. Yeah.
No, I was holding on to
Oh.
him for just this occasion where I was like, crap. I don't
He
have-
also has not eliminated the Commanders, by the way.
But the Commanders are what, like 4-5? The NFC's terrible, right? I'm just saying.
Fair.
I'm holding off.
Fair.
There's going to be all 4 NFC East teams in the playoffs.
I didn't say that. I'm just not ready to
That
eliminate.
is what you say.
No, I'm not. I'm just saying I haven't eliminated any specific one yet. Why would I eliminate
The Giants
a team
could
that's
still fall
4 and
below
5?
the commies.
Like, would you eliminate them at 4 and 5 today, knowing that there are 4 and 5 teams that are positioned to make the playoffs?
I mean,
Yes, because
there
I don't think
some
that they are one of the 4 and 5
6-loss
teams to be in a position to make the playoffs.
But there are better choices, man.
Yeah.
Like
sure.
the Texans.
No, the Texans are definitely a better choice.
I'm not saying the commies are going to make it. I'm just saying I'd rather.
I was just pointing out that you also have not eliminated them. That's all. That's all I was saying. Both of us have eliminated them several weeks ago.
Well, good for y'all. I'll get to them eventually. I just haven't gotten to them yet. I'm not saying they're going to make it. I'm just saying, like, they're not my first choice.
Let's go ahead and jump into our Week 10 picks against the spread. Can we believe that it's already Week 10?
Yeah, it
Season
kind of
just
sucks.
flying by.
Yeah, it's dark outside at like 5 o'clock now.
I hate it so
I thought
much.
we were supposed to be done with this.
We will be next year. This is the last time.
Okay.
At least,
Or will we
Yeah.
actually? Because I heard somebody say on Twitter,
I guess
which is not a
technically they
reliable
could
source.
bring it back, but
But did they actually? Did Biden officially sign on the line saying we're not doing daylight savings? Fall back.
I'm pretty sure he did.
I thought he did too, but
I'm pretty sure he did. I guess we will find out.
yeah, next year.
Thursday night football. We've got a bit of a snoozer. The Falcons and the Panthers.
Oh God.
Yeah. Fun games. The Falcons are 2.5-point road favorites at Carolina. Got Marcus Mariota against, we're assuming PJ Walker still. But apparently Sam Darnold has been reactivated by the Panthers, and he could potentially factor in. Baker Mayfield came into the game late last week and was responsible for, I think, all 21 points that the Panthers scored in, albeit in very much garbage time against the Bengals.
It's
Holding out hope
42
for a
to
back
nothing.
door.
Yeah.
I was like, we can get 2 more of those.
Yep.
Two more
You're
touchdowns.
right. It's a back door. Yeah. So what are we thinking with this one? Evan, I'll start with you.
Both of these teams stink, and this game is a snoozer, like you said. But the Panthers stink way more. So I've got the Falcons to, probably win by 3. They'll make it closer than it should be, probably, like they do. But give me Atlanta to win in squeaker.
Yeah, I'm also taking the Falcons. I don't know that it's necessarily going to be a squeaker, but I definitely think the Falcons are going to win by more than 2.5. I mean, Cordero Patterson came back last week and looked fantastic. I think that's only going to help Tyler Allgeier's game too. He's not going to be asked to do quite as much, and he's been decently effective running the ball this season. Not nearly as much as Cordero Patterson, but I think on fresher legs, they're going to have a pretty solid 1-2 punch, and it's going to make up for the fact that they don't have any of a pass game. So I'm going to take the Falcons.
Any of a pass game.
I had Tyler Allgeier as a fantasy sleeper coming into the year, and unfortunately I couldn't swipe him in our league. But that's not really relevant. The Panthers are garbage. The Falcons somehow actually win games every once in a while. There's a rubber band.
What was that?
It's a rubber band.
Oh, okay.
I'll pick it up as soon as I'm done picking the
It
Falcons.
was like a bug.
No, it was not a bug. A flying spider just went by.
Jeez, I can't with any of that. We live on the 4th floor for a reason.
And yet, you still have flying spiders. What's going on? Anyway, I'm taking the Falcons because the Panthers are booty butt cheeks. I'm going to be watching NBA basketball. Sorry,
There you
not
go.
interested in this.
We got to mention how the Falcons lost on Sunday with Eckler fumbling on the Chargers' potentially game-winning drive. The Falcons scoop it up and start running it back, and the guy who picked up the ball just dropped it by himself.
Yeah.
And the Chargers recovered.
It didn't matter because Eric was going to be the lowest scorer in the league anyway, but he lost an additional 2 points on that play.
Well, it
jeez.
didn't help that I didn't have a tight end that was healthy, and I
Yeah.
probably should have picked up a defense that wasn't the Falcons. But they actually ended up not giving up a lot of points. They just loafed on that play.
They did score positive points, so it actually worked out as a coaching risk because so there was actually a coaching risk to start them. The coaching risk was that you should have started the Browns on bye because the Falcons had a negative projection.
Oh my God.
So you actually got positive coaching points out of that.
Oh my God, I'm so checked out of this season. Like, this is bad. I've never had a season like this. Like, even years where my team has been bad, which hasn't happened super often, but it has happened. I've been like, okay, we're gonna win this week, baby. Let's go. Like, because I think the first year of AFL, I finished 4-9, which is obviously trash.
Yeah.
But Brandon won my division at 6-7.
Yeah.
So I was in the hunt
You
for
were.
pretty much the whole year just
You were.
because the division was terrible. So I couldn't exactly be like, oh, who cares? You know, I was legitimately trying to win and just not winning. This year I'm just like, oh, this supposed 100 graded draft team that I picked absolutely sucks. It's just like, okay, that didn't work. Like,
Wait, Eric, you won the draft in the post-draft write-up?
He did again.
I do like pretty much
Every
not
year.
every year, not
Just about every year.
But one of the years I didn't, I had a really good team. But yeah, I'm usually at the top of the list because I'm usually pretty religiously tied to the ECRs. So, you know, I'm not. I don't waver too much because I acknowledge I just generally don't know all that much. So I'm not gonna just be like, I know more than everybody else and try a bunch of wild stuff. But usually it works out. Didn't this year.
Trying a bunch of wild stuff has worked out for me this year. So
Well, the thing is, like, I was thinking about this because I'm in my other fantasy leagues, a bunch of Eagles fans, and my success is pretty much determined on how well the Eagles perform because they all just overdraft a bunch of Eagles. But if they're good, their teams are good, and I'm like, well, I didn't get any Eagles, crap. But this year, Jalen Hurts is killing it. A.J. Brown is killing it. Miles Sanders has been actually good for fantasy for the first time in his life, even though he should have probably been before. And I'm just like, I didn't get
Dallas
any of these
Goedert
Eagles.
has been really good.
Yeah.
The Eagles' defense has been good.
Yeah, and so it's like these guys just run after Eagles because like,
The only guy who's kind of underperformed is Devontae Smith. But like even Kenneth Gainwell is like basically like almost fantasy relevant.
But I don't in a 10-team league he's not. But,
No,
you know,
no.
so.
Evan, you got some Sunday morning birthday football this weekend. The first ever NFL game on German soil. The Seattle Seahawks playing against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Buccaneers are the de facto home team. They are 3-point favorites in this international series game. I'm taking the Seahawks.
I'm taking the Seahawks, too. The wrong team's favorite here.
We said that last week about the Rams. Y'all were counting out touchdown Tom. I supported our 45-year-old divorced dad, and it pushed. But still, like it was the Bucs won the game, and that was a little bit of a surprise. Some people were. I didn't actually see what happened. Apparently, people were furious with Mr. McVay.
Yes, he should have been fired. He was terrible. What did they went with the prevent defense, like, the type of defense you play when you're, up by 17 with 2 minutes left, like you're okay with other team getting, 15 yards at a time, but they were up by 4, and the Bucs just marched right down the field, with Scotty Miller instead of Mike Evans, because Mike Evans couldn't catch all of a sudden. It's just unbelievable out of the Rams. What are y'all doing? What was that?
So PFT commenter, who we like on this show, of course, brought his wits when he said that it was a good thing that the Colts fired or got rid of the Reich before we visited Germany. So
Oh, jeez.
anyway, Seahawks. For all the reasons you guys stated, the Bucs still don't. I don't trust them. The Seahawks actually legitimately have earned my trust. Geno Smith is playing like a legitimately good quarterback, and it's been a long enough time where I'm willing to say this is actually who he's going to be this year.
And Kenneth Walker has been really good.
Oh, yeah.
And the injury scared to DK Metcalf a couple of weeks ago. He's been effective since then. So that's kind of not a concern at this point.
Yep.
Whereas there's still a lot of concerns for the Buccaneers. 1 o'clock Sunday games. We'll start with the Vikings at the Bills. The Bills are 3.5-point favorites, and the only reason I can imagine the line is this low is because of the questions concerning Josh Allen and his arm with the potential UCL injury that they are worried about. Otherwise, like, this line should be probably at least 6.5, 7 points, in my opinion. What are your guys' thoughts on this one?
I think the Vikings get exposed. I mean, this is got to be among the worst 7-1 teams in the history of football. Like they're not for real. They're fraudulent. I know Josh Allen's hurt, but I think he's gonna play. I think that pretty much the Bills need him to play because they gagged against the Jets last week, and now they don't have any margin for error, vying for the number 1 seed with the Chiefs being 7-2 as well. I mean, or maybe 6-2. I think they both had their bye weeks, but I think the Bills need this one. I think that even if Allen is limited, the Bills overall are a better team, and they've been much bigger favorites against teams that are probably better than this Vikings team. Losing to the Jets was tough, but the Jets have shown they're better than we thought, even though we kind of wrote them off after that bad game against the Patriots. Then they came back and won this one. I feel like the Bills team overall is good enough, and even if Allen's a little bit more pedestrian or asked to do a little bit less, I think that they're going to be fine.
For me, I'm falling into, some human nature fallacy, something or other. The Bills played like crap against the Jets, and I just refuse to acknowledge that happened because it doesn't agree with what I already thought, which is, of course, nobody circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills, and the Bills are going to win the Super Bowl. So I got the Bills laying the points. I'm assuming Josh Allen's going to play. It is Wednesday, and the game's not till Sunday. So stuff can change in that time.
He's been listed as day-to-day as well.
If Josh Allen is not 100% again this season, are the Bills still winning the Super Bowl?
I mean, 90% Josh Allen's better than 100% Kirk Cousins.
But that wasn't Corey's question.
But is 90% Josh Allen better than 100% Patrick Mahomes?
I think the Bills with 90% of Josh Allen is still better than the Chiefs with a perfectly healthy Mahomes.
I mean, Mahomes has never played a road playoff game, right?
And he might not if the Bills don't get it together.
Yeah, currently the road Super Bowl goes through Buffalo, and it's going to be cold.
They just gave up a game of what their lead was.
But they beat the Chiefs already.
They did beat the Chiefs already, but still, they gave up a game there. That was a bad one to give up. I'm also going to go with Buffalo. I kind of disagree with Eric on the Vikings are going to be exposed. The Vikings were exposed by the fact that they only beat the Commanders by 3 points this past Sunday.
That's good.
They were losing by 10.
They've already been exposed.
That's true. Yeah, I didn't really.
And then Kirk Cousins took his shirt off on the plane to expose them even more.
And then Adam Schefter decided to mimic it, and
oh my
Shefty,
God!
Stop mimicking Vikings, please, for the love of God. That gives me enough comfort in still picking the Bills, even if Allen is not at 100%. Even if somehow Allen winds up not playing, I still think that the Bills can win this game by 4 or more.
Who's the Bills' backup quarterback?
I don't know, but they've got enough other good players, and their defense is good. I think that they'll be okay.
I gotta be worried there for a second when you said I disagree with you saying that the Vikings are going to be exposed. I'm like, wait, does Corey believe in the Vikings? What are we doing? That can't be right. That doesn't line up.
Lions at Bears. Chicago, a 3-point home favorite. So basically saying that on a neutral field, these two teams would be evenly matched, which might be fair. But I think the Bears are playing a little bit better football right now than the Lions are. This is a tough one because I don't want to get overexcited by what the Bears are doing on offense. But I kind of am. I am all in on the Bears this week.
I'm running to the window right now betting the Bears. The Lions are hot garbage. Trending in the right direction. They look good against Green Bay, but seems like everybody looks good against Green Bay. Green Bay can't football anymore.
Fade the Packers.
Yeah. So the Lions are still terrible. And the Bears, they have a little juice, right? Justin Fields is scoring points now. Playing quarterback effectively. And the Lions offense, I mean,
it gets pretty anemic, and they don't even have T.J. Hawkinson anymore.
This game's outside. Oh no, take the Bears.
I find it interesting because Evan's a fade the Bears guy all year until recently. But to be fair, Evan had a point until recently. So I'm going to take the Bears as well. The Lions stink. Their defense, I don't care what they did against the Packers. Their defense is terrible. And their offense has been pretty brutal the last couple weeks. I don't know what Aaron Rodgers was doing. He
was on the ayahuasca.
Is he cooked? Is he cooked?
The Lions have 2 wins this season. One was a home game against the Commies in week 2.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, and then they beat the Packers on Sunday. That's it. That's the list.
I realize he's working with a bad hand. He's got bad receivers, but he also doesn't look good at all.
I feel like we already kind of felt like he might be cooked, and he came in and had a couple decent games this season. And he fit, at the beginning of the season, he was playing pretty well offensively. They were leading the NFL in scoring for the first 3 weeks.
They were?
Yeah.
We're talking about the Packers.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're talking about the Packers.
I'm talking about Aaron Rodgers. Is Aaron Rodgers cooked?
I thought you were talking about Jared Goff.
No, Jared Goff sucks. We don't have to talk about is he cooked?
Yes, Aaron Rodgers is cooked.
He's cooked. He's cooked. So, he's no longer going to be good at quarterback for the rest of time. That's what cooked means.
I want to say he's seared on the outside. Right? He's not all the way done.
All right, that's a solid hedge. I'll give you that one.
That might be the show title tonight. So far, we got some clean sweeps through 4 games. We are all in perfect agreement, so we'll see if that continues. As we have the Jaguars at the Chiefs. Chiefs favored 9.5 points. Is that enough? Is that too much?
The Chiefs have been so up and down this year. They've blown out some teams where you're like, wow, that was pretty cool. And then they win by 3 in overtime against Malik Willis and the Titans. They were, 12.5-point favorites? Did I pick the Chiefs to cover that?
I picked the Chiefs and went down the bowl, so...
Yeah, I think I didn't because of Derrick Henry. I think Corey and I were on the same page.
Yeah, we both picked the Titans.
Probably.
Yeah, but, I still figured the Chiefs would look good winning. They just win by 10 or something. I didn't think that they would be trailing for most of the game and needing some Houdini from Patrick Mahomes, along with Travis Kelce ripping a dude's head off, or not head off, but helmet off, and then the other guy getting a penalty for it, and then that allowing them to go for 2 again. I just, that's what they needed. But then again, the Jaguars have been booty, and then the Chiefs sometimes show up. Are they going to show up? Also, it feels like the Chiefs are always at home. I don't know why.
I think they only play home games. I agree. Every game is always at Arrowhead.
Right?
I'm surprised that they're playing at home at 1:00.
That's true.
I feel like
all
that
their
doesn't ever
primetime
happen.
games, all their primetime games are at home.
Yes, that's the part that's surprising to me. By the way, the Chiefs Chiefs Chargers game next week has been flexed to Sunday Night Football,
as it should be.
Oh, what was flexed out of Sunday Night Football?
That I'd have to double check.
That always is what's interesting to me. What game got bounced to 1:00?
Yeah, I think I had already pre-made all of our ballots for the year, so I can see what was flexed out pretty easily. I'll check that later.
The
anyway,
Chiefs Broncos game in Denver is a night game. Sorry. Yeah.
Anyway. This week's game, Chiefs Jaguars. I am going to take the Chiefs, and the number one reason for that is because I'm planning to bench Travis Etienne because I don't think that he's going to be getting a lot of carries, and he hasn't been very involved in the passing game recently for the Jaguars. And I kind of want to be right about that. I don't want to be regretting my decision to bench him. So I'm going to take the Chiefs to win by double digits.
The original game was Steelers at Bengals.
Oh, thank God.
So they moved.
Anything would have been better than that.
They moved that up out of there and got us an actual maybe good game, a primetime standalone opportunity to watch Brandon Staley blow another game.
Mm-hmm.
Should be fun.
It's gonna happen.
Who do you guys have between the Chiefs and the Jaguars?
I'm going with the Jags, and it's against my better judgment because the Jags. I declared Trevor Lawrence as him. That was premature.
Over boogieing.
Yeah, over boogieing. I felt pretty good about it at the time, too. I generally don't over boogie. I over boogied on this one. So that's why I'm going out of my way to not say it about Justin Fields right now, because I actually want him to be him, and I don't want to ruin it. But at the same time, the Chiefs have just shown inconsistency abound, and with that being the case, they got to win this game by double digits. I guess I'll go with the Jags.
Evan?
I've got the Chiefs.
It's been a little while since Eric has. I guess Eric has had a couple of lone wolf attempts recently, but he hasn't
not
gotten
many
a win
wins.
lately.
Yeah,
he's not gotten a win
Okay.
lately.
Yeah.
Well,
I've got Kansas City.
Well, the nice thing is none of us know how to pick, so one of us has to be right here because you can't push on a line with a hook. So we're gonna go 0-4 for the first 4 games here, and then one of us is going to get a win here. Or maybe 2 of us will, but it's guaranteed someone's putting one on the board.
Oh my
goodness. Yeah. I've got the Chiefs. Like y'all have said, they've been up and down.
You feeling up this week?
Yeah, because, they were down
That's
in
true.
week 9 against the Titans. They had their bye week 2 weeks ago, and then they rolled the 49ers in San Francisco. Remember that game on the 23rd? So, it's
anyone's
the
guess.
uptime in the cycle now.
So it's a little like we're on like Nitro's airtime hills where it's just up and down, up and down. Yeah.
Browns at Dolphins. Miami is the home favorite, 3.5 points. I'm taking the Dolphins. Tua has been lights out. Jeff Wilson looked really good as their starting running back this past week in his very first game, and I imagine it's only going to get better. And they already had Raheem Mostert. Like, that's a really good offense right there. And I don't really trust the Browns that much. Like, I get that Nick Chubb is really good. He's been fantastic this year, but Kareem Hunt has been pretty ineffective this season. Like, they used to have a really good 1-2 punch, and now it's really only Nick Chubb who can do anything in the ground game. And the only receiver who's doing anything is Amari Cooper, and kudos to him because I thought he was cooked. But he's playing really well this year, but I don't think that's going to be enough in this game. I think the Dolphins can win by 4 or more pretty easily.
Just learned that the Browns are coming off a bye, which probably should have changed my mind, but it didn't. The Browns only have wins against the Panthers, Steelers, Bengals, with losses to the Jets, Falcons, Chargers, Patriots, Ravens. Like, ooh, that's not great. So
Not
give me
great
the
teams
Dolphins.
on either list.
Yeah, none of it's great. So give me the Dolphins. I think the Browns, they look great against the Bengals. I believe I had that, but it's against the Dolphins.
I don't know how much I would say the Browns looked great. I think the Bengals just looked awful in that game.
Brissett did ball. I will give Brissett credit. He balled.
Yeah.
The Bengals are 0-3 in the division. They've already lost to everybody.
Wasn't there a year?
The Bengals.
There was a year that the Raiders finished 8-8, but they were 0-6 against the division, and that wound up being why they missed the playoffs. I think. I think this was with Cable. I think Tom Cable was.
It might have been the Cheapo Mania year because the Broncos went 8-8 that year, and they made the playoffs in the tiebreaker with the Raiders.
Yeah, that could be it.
Went on to beat the Steelers, and then people pretended Tebow was good. Not NFL. Tebow teams.
Was good.
No. Anyway, this line feels a little disrespectful to the Dolphins. They, when healthy, and by healthy I mean when Tua's been out there, they've been a legitimately dangerous team. Like, they beat the Bills. Like, that was an impressive win.
Dolphins could win the Super Bowl.
I mean, the Bills are winning the Super Bowl, so I'm not wavering until Josh Allen, his arm is in a sling and he's not wearing a helmet anymore. At that point, I will concede that the Bills might not win the Super Bowl. Anyway, Dolphins here. The Browns stink. Dolphins are better than. They're only getting a half point for being better, and then 3 for being at home. That doesn't compute to me. Give me the fish.
The Giants are 5-point home favorites against the Texans this weekend. Giants, I believe, are also coming off a bye.
I haven't seen them in a while.
Yeah. This one's a little bit of a tougher line for me. And I'm still highly annoyed that the Giants are winning as many games as they are, considering.
And they're probably going to win this one,
and they're
too.
probably going to win this one, too. Question is by how much. I don't know. Like these two teams feel very similar. Like they both have bad quarterbacks. They don't really have good receivers. They have good running backs. Saquon Barkley has been fantastic this year, but Dameon Pierce has also been really, really good. Like, is there a guy who runs like more powerfully in the NFL this season than Dameon Pierce? I would say no.
Maybe Josh Allen.
Running back, no. And both defenses are similarly unexciting. To me, that says that the spread should probably be more like 3 points. So I'm going to take the Texans, but I don't like it because this really, the 5 points feels like almost like perfect. Like anything between like 3 and 6, I could see it going either way. But I'm going to go with my gut and say Texans cover this one.
It feels like the Giants only win like super close games. Also, like this is a doozy because the Texans are objectively terrible, but the Giants are totally frauds, right? Like that team's not that good. So what do? I'm taking the Texans.
I have all my picks written down already, so I'm not going to be wavering. I just have to come up with a reason why I decided to pick this team. So I haven't watched any Texans games, and I've watched one Giants game this season, and I didn't particularly have a whole lot of fun that day. But I've got the Giants and laying the points at home because all I know about the Texans is that they're terrible. That's all I know. And the Giants, despite being frauds, and despite only playing like Alabama versus the Citadel every week, you are what your record says you are at the end of the day. So give me the Giants.
But are you what your record says you are against the spread?
I don't know.
Because the Giants are actually probably pretty good against the spread because they won a lot of games they shouldn't have.
Yeah, I'm aware.
The Pittsburgh Steelers are 1.5 point home dogs against the New Orleans Saints. This line is. I think this just tells you how little Vegas thinks of the Saints right now. That they're only 1.5 point favorites. I get that they're on the road, but the Steelers are awful. They are so bad. Najee Harris
off a bye,
is terrible.
He is. He's
been one of the least effective runners of the ball in the NFL this season. And their offensive line is not good enough to help him at all. Their quarterback play has been putrid. They got rid of one of their top pass catchers in Chase Claypool, and Pratt Freiermuth has been really good this season, but he's been the only bright spot to their offense because Deontay Johnson has been he's been unexceptional. I think he has the most catches in the NFL without a touchdown reception this season. He's catching balls, he's moving the ball downfield, but he's not putting it in the end zone, and nobody else is putting it in the end zone except for on occasion Pat Freiermuth. And their defense is, I think Watt might be back this week, and so that potentially helps the defense some. And that certainly hurts the Saints, who have been pretty bad. But, the Saints at least have good skill players. They have Alvin Kamara. They have a player that I can point to and be like, yeah, that guy knows how to football.
Chris Olave knows how to football, too.
And
he's been legit.
Yeah, thank you. So they got 2 players. They got, 2 out of maybe 3 players in this game who I know can football.
They got some dudes on defense that can football, too. Which I don't understand why they're so bad. Y'all should be – I realize Andy Dalton's – a bum.
This game, the Saints defense should be okay. I feel like they're going up against a really bad offense, so it should be. I'm taking the Saints, laying the points on the road. It's only 1.5, but I'm going to take them to beat that spread.
This sucks. 'Cause the Saints suck.
Y'all say that about every single game. It's either this line is perfect and I can't figure out which way to go, or this line sucks because it's so hard to pick. Like, yeah, that's the exercise, right? That's what we're doing.
Well, it's one thing though for this line's really tough because these teams are both really good. That's fine. You just pick a winner and hope for the best. I gotta watch these two crummy ass teams. Like that's the annoying part. There's so many.
Don't. You can go to the pumpkin patch or something.
I still
We're
have
going to
to
be on Red Zone.
I still have to acknowledge this game exists and
you
put
don't.
some brain power into
Yeah,
figuring
we
out
do.
who's gonna
We
win.
have to acknowledge it exists.
Yeah.
Oh.
I mean,
What are you going to be? Are you going to be an NFL game denier?
No.
You lose elections that way. Anyway, I'm gonna take the Saints, holding my breath because
That's not a good idea. I wouldn't do that.
I might pass out. But
Hold your nose. Don't hold your breath. Evan, who you got?
I'm going to take the Saints and say it with my chest. The Steelers' only wins were against the Buccaneers, who were incompetent, and the Bengals in overtime, who turned the ball over 5 times in week 1.
and their long snapper was hurt, so they couldn't kick an extra point to win the game in regulation.
Yes. Yeah, the Steelers needed all of that to win their 2 games. So the Saints' defense really impressed me on Monday night. Like, Demario Davis, I haven't watched too many Saints games. I've watched one. And Demario Davis was flying around.
Oh yeah.
Oh, this guy.
Stud.
Wow. Yeah.
I don't understand why the team's not better.
Well, here's a game that I can say with my chest. The last 1 o'clock game we have to talk about, Broncos at Titans. Tennessee is a 2.5-point favorite, and I am taking the Titans. They are the vastly, vastly superior team in this matchup. No question.
I disagree. I've got the Broncos in the points.
Broncos country, that's right.
Yeah. Broncos country, let's punt.
That's probably what's going to be happening.
Yes. Also, I think the Titans say tighten up, let's punt as well. So this game is going to be close. It's going to be like, 9-8 or something, with the team getting 8, having 4 safeties probably. So, give me Denver in just an abominable game. Like, this game's not even good enough for Thursday night. They should put this on, I don't know, Wednesday night.
Put it on Tuesday night with some action.
Yes, Tuesday. There we go. Yeah, Tuesday night football on ESPN the Ocho.
There you go. Who would have ever thought that at this point in 2022 you'd be clamoring for the return of Ryan Tannehill? Because Malik Willis was awful. Just absolutely awful.
The Titans can't throw the ball.
Derrick
Yes.
Henry is still the man.
But the Broncos' defense is good.
That's true. Broncos defense is good.
It's not that good.
It's pretty good.
It's not
It's
good.
keeping them in games because,
That they
the
usually
Broncos'
lose.
offense is not.
This might be just born out of pure contempt. I'm going to pick the Titans because the Broncos really annoy me. And by Broncos, I mean one specific Bronco. Actually, no, 2 specific Broncos. Nat Hackett, P.I., and Mr. Unlimited both piss me off. So nobody on the Titans makes me that mad. I like Mike Vrabel just fine. Malik Willis stinks, but I don't have any real beef with him. And other than that, also their receivers are really bad too. God, they suck.
4:05 Sunday. Colts at Raiders. Vegas is a 6-point favorite in this game. I'm taking the Raiders.
That's a pretty stinging indictment of the Raiders, the fact that they're only a 6-point favorite against a team that just hired a phony coach off of ESPN, benched their quarterback for Sam Ehlinger,
Who was the worst quarterback of the week last week by DYAR.
Yeah, they fired their offensive coordinator. They're doing the most obvious tank since the last time they did the most obvious tank. And yet, the Raiders can't lay more than a touchdown here at home.
Can't even lay a whole touchdown with the extra point.
That's what I'm saying. It's pretty bad. Josh McDaniels got fired by a fake Adam Schefter today. So maybe that'll inspire the real Josh McDaniels to not try to get fired, as reported by maybe the real Adam Schefter. Although, with the way Adam Schefter's behaving,
He's been a little too busy emulating the Vikings. I don't know if he has time to report on firings right
emulating poorly, I might add. Dude needs to hit the gym if he's going to be pulling that.
I thought his emulation of Kirk Cousins was actually decent. That's just because Kirk Cousins
accurate.
looked so stupid.
It just wasn't decent.
Yeah, there was nothing decent about it.
But it was exactly as indecent as Kirk Cousins.
But,
yes.
Okay, but Kirk at least is a professional athlete. Like, he looks okay without his shirt on. Adam was showing off a little too much skin. Evan and I have had conversations about the Evan and Meyer corollary from Kings Island and every other theme park across the world. The ratio of skin you can show is disproportional, or is inversely proportional to your surface area. Adam Schefter had a little too much surface area to be rocking a shirtless look on national television on ESPN.
Oh my God.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Who do you guys got in this game?
Raiders.
Evan?
Oh my goodness. I picked the Colts just because, they might play hard and win one for the new coach. And the Raiders are bad at executing, right? Like, they don't play well. So, like, screw something up late or whatever. 6 points. Give me Indy.
But winning one for the new coach goes off script. That's not the assignment. The assignment is the new coach is here to lose.
Yeah,
The players don't know that.
Maybe the players
The players
know
are
that.
tanking. If the players play bad, they get fired and don't get hired by another team.
But maybe Irsay is telling them, hey, you guys got to go tank.
I don't think that's a thing.
It shouldn't be because, we had a whole thing about that, but you never know.
Packers are 5-point home dogs against the Dallas Cowboys. Mike McCarthy making his first return back to Lambeau Field since becoming the Dallas Cowboys head coach. And 5 points it's a little more than I really feel super comfortable with, but say it with me, fade the Packers. I'm taking the Cowboys. Laying the points.
This line feels like they finally caught up to the Packers and understood that they're terrible. Even so, I'm still going to fade them because I actually think the Cowboys are a legitimately good team.
Cowboys roll the Packers. I mean, this game's not going to be close.
So that's a 4:25 game. There's another 4:25 game. Thank God we don't only have 2 4:00 games this week.
We have 3.
3 is not that much better, but I'll take it. The Arizona Cardinals visiting the Los Angeles Rams. The Rams 1.5-point favorites in SoFi this week. Eric, who you got?
You had to pick me first for this one.
Yep.
Okay.
Well, I know who I'm picking. So
this is I know who you're picking too. Actually, maybe I don't, but I think I know who you're picking. I'm gonna take the Arizona Cardinals and the 1.5 because the Rams are absolutely horrible. I think the Cardinals have a little more juice with the return of DeAndre Hopkins. Kyler Murray's playing a little bit better. The Cardinals feel like they play their best when they have absolutely nothing on the line. And as a team, they feel like they're not going anywhere. So, we'll try this week. Plus, that they and the Rams have a little bit of a rivalry. It's not quite 49ers Rams where it gets pretty nasty, but
or 49ers Seahawks. That was a big deal for a while.
Oh yeah. But yeah, I'm gonna roll with the Cardinals. This is purely as an indictment of the Rams, to be honest.
I agree 100% with what you said. I also have the Cardinals.
I knew it.
We saw what the Rams defense looked like in the fourth quarter against Tampa Bay, right? The 45-year-old quarterback throwing to Scotty Miller.
Forced dad.
Yeah, come on. Give me Dallas. The Rams, defending Super Bowl champions, not defending it all that well, actually.
This has to be among the worst title defenses in NFL history.
It's down there.
This is normally the team that wins the Super Bowl comes back and is at least pretty good. The one exception I could think of to my memory,
2013 Ravens.
The 2013 Ravens, yeah, but what was their record that year?
8-8.
Yeah, but they went 8-8, right? This Rams team. I don't know if they're even going to win 7 games.
Probably not.
Like they're cheeks. Like the only one that I think is closest is like the '99 Broncos, but that's because Elway retired. Right, like it's almost like an entirely new team. So this is weird. I think the Rams are just really, really bad.
So, Eric, today you shared a video from the midseason Hard Knocks of Budda Baker giving a very impassioned speech in the locker room.
I've shared a lot of videos today, to be honest.
Well, you shared that one, and Budda Baker suffered an ankle sprain that's likely going to keep him out of this week's game, so the Cardinals' defense is going to be a little bit shorthanded. That said, it sounds like Matthew Stafford is in the concussion protocol, which is not going to be good for the Rams. And so, yeah, I'm not that he's been great this year, but I would have taken the Rams. At 1.5 points, I would have been all over the Rams for this one. But with that news, I'm also taking the Cardinals this week.
I think the Rams are worse than the Cardinals with a healthy Matthew Stafford.
They still got the better coach.
That's not saying much.
No, but
it's saying something.
It's still saying something.
I mean,
Sunday Night Football. Los Angeles Chargers at San Francisco 49ers. The 49ers are laying a touchdown. They're laying 7 points. That's steep. That is really steep, especially when you consider Deebo Samuels, I believe, is still injured, like not going to be playing this week. To my knowledge, I don't even think he's questionable right now. That said, Christian McCaffrey has been great, and can't seem to hear enough praises coming out of the 49ers camp about the synergy that Christian McCaffrey and Jimmy G are developing with each other. Brandon Ayuk has been good. The 49ers defense is good. And the Chargers are very inconsistent. Mike Williams is still hurt. The only guy who's really been consistent for them has been Austin Eckler, who just can't, after not scoring touchdowns for the first 2 or 3 weeks, can't stop scoring them. He's scoring 3 every week, it feels like. Jeez.
Mm-hmm.
7 is just a lot. I'm taking the Chargers here, but I'm hating myself for it. I know I'm going to be wrong.
I mean,
I've got the Chargers as well, and Corey. Sometimes I'm gonna be honest. When I agree with you, that's when I'm concerned. and then you said I'm gonna.
I had more wins last week. I had 2 more wins than you last week.
Yeah.
Maybe you should have agreed with me more.
Yeah, I've been saying for a couple weeks now the Chargers play up and down to their competition. They only play close games. It doesn't matter who they're playing.
What do they do, though, when the other team can't decide whether they're good or bad, and the Chargers don't know whether they're playing up to the 49ers or down to the 49ers? Because it could be either way this week.
Both go in the middle.
It could go either way this week.
It could. That's why I'm taking the team that's getting extra points.
There you go.
Usually a good way to. When in doubt, take the points is a pretty good strategy.
Also, the Niners got rolled at home by the Chiefs, right? If the Chargers offense can find anything, the Niners defense might be a little toastable.
So the only way that Brandon Staley can blow this game spectacularly is if it's close and they end up losing because of him, which probably means that they're going to win by the 49ers are not going to win by more than 7. So Brandon Staley hopefully getting fired this week because I don't like him. And I also went out of my way to pick him.
Anyway.
I went out of my way to pick him, select him for extinction, as Darwin would say. I want him cooked, and I can't wait for this because he's going up against Kyle Shanahan, who can actually coach, and this is going to be a hilarious mismatch. But that's what it's going to come down to.
I like Brandon Staley, just not as a head coach.
Yeah,
I stand by what I said. I feel like he disrespects his position.
Monday Night Football, last game to talk about for the week. The Washington Commanders at the Philadelphia Eagles. Eagles laying 11 points. It's the biggest spread of the week. We've been talking about the Eagles like this all year because the Eagles have a tendency. They've kind of shaken it the last couple games, but they have a tendency to get out really hot in the first half, and then they kind of slow down in the second half, and they let teams make it a little bit closer than it should be. The last couple of weeks have kind of been the opposite, where they've gotten out sort of slow, and they've played a little better in the second half. Still waiting for them to put together a full 60 minutes of good football. If they're going to do it, I don't see any reason why it wouldn't be against the Commanders on Monday Night Football, which Washington has been allergic to for about as long as any of us can remember. I'm taking the Eagles.
I'm very familiar with a particular Monday Night Football game where the Commies played the Eagles and one Mr. Michael Vick was starting.
And the very first play of the game. The very first play of the game.
It seemed like the second play of the game and the third play of the game. It was 35-0 after the first quarter.
Yes.
Yeah, just like, oh my God, that was a fantasy explosion for Michael Vick and Deshaun Jackson and Jeremy Maclin and anybody that had a skill position number, because those mattered back then. They were putting up points. Just, oh my God. Anyway, that was a nice history lesson from when I was in college. How about now? The Eagles are still way better, and they're going to crush the Commies.
Absolutely. Eagles roll. The Eagles defense is good, and they'll be able to stop Taylor Heineke. The Eagles offense will be able to score on the Commanders defense. When is Chase Young coming back? Is he getting close? He's got to be getting close.
I thought he was supposed to be back, but, you know.
Who? Oh, Chase Young. Yeah, I'm not sure when exactly he's going to be back.
I mean, there's no point in rushing him back. You've got a dead man walking as a coach. You've got an owner that's supposedly going to kick the team to Bezos and Hove and maybe even RG3. Oh, and McConaughey's getting involved too, so, you know.
Yeah. Also, the owner might go to jail because he's being investigated by the IRS or FBI or Congress or
everybody.
The trifecta, right? All three of them.
The DOJ is going to get him too, you know. Just
the DOJ.
Yeah.
Isn't the DEA also in there? Wasn't there a drug thing as well?
I don't know. One could only hope. just all this stuff. Damn, just go to jail forever.
Yeah.
Just put him under the jail.
So one thing that I do want to mention, just as I was preparing for my picks today, I was looking at the lines on Football Outsiders, the official lines that they had for those games, plus their own Football Outsider projection lines, and theirs are assuming that Case Keenum is going to be the starter for the Buffalo Bills this week, and that Ryan Tannehill is going to be the starter for the Tennessee Titans this week. So they are assuming Tannehill returns, and they're assuming Allen does not play, which I found interesting. So we'll see if they have some inside information that we are not privy to, because Josh Allen, I believe, did not practice today, and so there could be some concern that he won't play, whereas Ryan Tannehill did have a couple of limited practices last week leading into him sitting out on Sunday, and he also had a limited practice today.
So who's the backup for the Bills?
Case Keenum.
Case Keenum could beat the Vikings. That's a revenge game, too, so there you go.
It is. There you go. That is everything that we have on our show notes for tonight. So unless there's something else that you guys wanted to discuss, that's pretty much going to wrap it up for episode 217 of the Sports Ballers Podcast. If you made it this far, please make sure that you drop us a like, hit that subscribe button on whatever platform you are listening on, whether it's live on YouTube, whether you're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts. And if you're not listening on any of those, I'm not sure where you might be listening on, but let us know, because we'd like to know if somehow we're somewhere else. If you'd like to hear us on a different podcatcher, let us know that too, and we'll look into getting our show up there. You can follow us on Twitter, at least for now. We'll see how long all of us can stand being on Twitter in this new Elon Musk era of the platform.
Twitter hasn't changed.
What?
I don't understand. My Twitter
experience is so different now. It's night and day.
Maybe you're in the target demographic as a white man trying to take you over to the
Maybe I am. So far, I'm resisting. Hopefully, that remains the case.
Don't get abducted by Elon Musk, please.
Oh, dear.
We'd have to rescind our friendship at that point.
But at least for now, you can follow us on Twitter. The show handle is @SportsBallers18. I am @Corey Puffett. Eric is @Quagmire67. And Evan is @Evan_Ash13. You can also email us, thesportsballers@gmail.com. If you have any mailbag questions that you'd like to send our way. If you'd like to, it's definitely too late at this point to catch up to us in the season-long contest. But if you want to play against us week by week,
It might not be too late.
Fair enough. If you do want to compete with us, at least week by week, though, in our picks against the spread contest, drop us your email. You can either DM us on social media, you can email it to us, and we'll be sure to send you a ballot every week. Last week, we were a little bit late getting the ballot out, so I gave all of our listeners a free point for Thursday night. I did not give us that free point, because even though we all got it wrong. So that did help Andrew beat me by 1 point this past week.
You're just handing out free points?
Well, it was because it was my mistake. I didn't send the ballot out. They didn't have an opportunity to send their picks in. So I will make sure that I get them out tonight, right after the show.
Sounds like you should have just taken an L there.
What?
You should have just taken an L there.
Well, no, because you guys got an opportunity to fill it out, and we made our picks on the show.
Okay, but they didn't get a chance to be wrong because of you.
What was the Thursday night game? I don't even remember.
That was your guys' game. That was, or no, I'm sorry. That was was it Eagles? Weren't the Eagles on Thursday night? Yeah, the Eagles were on Thursday night. I forget who they were playing.
Oh, that Eagles-Texans game.
Yes, it was Eagles-Texans.
Philly versus Houston all at the same time.
Yes. That was a long time ago.
Yes.
I got 52 points that night for my fantasy team against Eric.
Which wasn't that many, but
it wasn't. But it was more than enough.
Yeah, 52 by itself would have been enough.
Just about. All right. Before we get out of here, any shout-outs for you guys?
I don't have a shout-out, but, everybody out there, please don't speak ill of Elon Musk, or else you'll be blasted into space, in an anatomically suggestive rocket, for example.
Well, no, that's not Elon Musk. That's Jeff Bezos who does that.
Oh.
Jeff Bezos has the penis rockets?
Yeah, that's Jeff Bezos.
Oh, I thought that was a SpaceX rocket.
No, it wasn't SpaceX.
No, he launches Teslas into space.
Oh, okay. Well, you'll be sent away in one of those. Yeah. Want to mention Orioles claim outfielder Daz Cameron off waivers from the Tigers. Ooh.
Who?
And then what's more interesting, I think, the College Football Playoff and the Rose Bowl are still negotiating the historic game's role in the expanded playoff model. Rose Bowl, y'all need to get with the times, okay? These bowl games are just, to have an exhibition. That's stupid, okay? Just forget about it, right? Like, the Rose Bowl is a great institution and stuff, but it has to host a game that has relevance, right? Like, it's like what's the point of having it if it's not going to be a good game or a game worth having, right? Like this is, come on, Rose Bowl. Like, what are y'all waiting for?
Eric, any shout outs?
Yeah, I guess shout out to my program that I work on, JPSS. We are launching J2. Our second satellite is being launched early in the wee hours of this morning. I will be waking up or staying up. I haven't decided yet. To watch it on a computer, because they don't bother to send contractors out to California to actually watch it in person, which that's neither here nor there. But
it's in California.
Yeah, they're launching it out of Vandenberg.
I don't feel like there's very many launches out of California.
I've never heard of a launch out of California. That's cool. Thought it would be in Florida.
No, but J1 was launched out of Vandenberg as well. So
where is that other than in California?
Santa Barbara. So
okay.
SoCal, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, that's going down. So hopefully everything goes well. The last time I woke up, went into the office at 4:00 in the morning, launch got scrubbed, and then we came back the next night / morning at 4 a.m. Too windy, launch got scrubbed, and they had to push it to like Saturday. And I was like, yeah, sorry, I'm not coming in on Saturday for this, especially if you're just gonna tell me, yeah, we're gonna scrub this again. So. I actually didn't get to see J1 get launched, except I saw it on replay. I didn't see it live.
You didn't see it live, yeah.
Yeah. So hopefully this goes a little more smoothly. They already pushed it. They were supposed to be launched last week, but they didn't scrub it. They just were delayed in general. So hopefully everything goes well tonight.
I'm trying to remember the name of the location on the Eastern Shore that we sometimes use for launches, but I went and watched a live launch there once, which was pretty cool.
Okay. Yeah, that's pretty good.
My only shout out is just a happy birthday to Evan. I kind of mentioned as an aside earlier on, but this Sunday is Evan's birthday. So, since we won't get a chance to say it on the show before our next one, Happy birthday, Evan.
Oh, thank you. I'm, already the oldest person on the show, but, I'll be somehow even older by the time we record again.
Yeah. I would be remiss if I didn't say shout out to Sean Kennedy, my boy. Hooked me up with a nice housewarming gift with some Jimmy's Famous seafood, some crab cakes, a couple things of Maryland crab soup and cream of crab soup and crab dip.
Where do you even get cream of crab soup anymore? I can never find it in Giants.
Oh, like I thought you were looking for like a restaurant to order it from. I don't know.
No, I'm looking for
He
like.
got it at Jimmy's Famous seafood.
Oh. So this okay.
Jimmy's gives out like gift boxes and stuff, and so
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So shout out to you. Shout out to everybody who's been kind enough to give me free stuff because I bought a house. That's
Send you a box of that, huh?
Yeah, that's an interesting tradition, I guess. It's like, hey, you bought a house. Here's some free stuff to put in, and I'm like, sweet. Got an air fryer. We're doing pretty good.
Damn. Okay.
Yeah. So shout out to all y'all, especially Sean, friend of the show. That's all I got.
All right. Well, that will do it then for episode 217 of the Sports Ballers podcast. Thank you so much for listening. We will be back next week with more NFL discussion, probably more NBA discussion, less Major League Baseball discussion. But until then, take care, stay safe, and we'll talk to you next time.